Energy began to accumulate in the center of the city, foreshadowing the appearance of a dungeon. A horde of terrible armed monsters burst out from the resulting anomaly. The security system warned of an impending threat, and the master was ready to fight. If successful, he could receive a reward from the true universe. Armed, he prepared for battle. The assistant reported that there were too many enemies. The master replied that they could only rely on luck. The guy activated the skill Liu Shan's Blessing. Right now, luck was exactly what he needed. Gripping his weapon tightly, he prepared for battle. The power of blessing was already flowing through his veins. He informed the enemies that Zhang Fei had arrived. The enemies prepared to meet him. Then the next skill was activated, Tiger Roar. All targets that came under its influence were hit. Some of the monsters nevertheless managed to break through closer. The master cut them down with fury, sparing no one. With every movement, he demonstrated that none of the enemies would leave the battlefield alive. The weapon in his hands had destructive power. The blow shook the earth. Zhang Fei had exceptional characteristics: mana, strength, as well as high endurance, agility, and perception. He was skilled in close combat, spear and sword. The monsters didn't have the slightest chance. The master destroyed them one by one until finally he was left standing alone among his fallen enemies. He was a hero of the past with knowledge of the future and legendary skills. It was a game where luck decided who would win. Sitting to the side, the boy watched as the other guys played enthusiastically. From an early age, he had little interest in children's games. The boy was more interested in books and comics, worlds where heroes overcame difficulties and saved humanity. He always worried about his idols and dreamed of becoming one of them one day. His fate was such that he became interested in one game. She completely absorbed his attention and time. He had talent and quickly became a professional, showing excellent results. But he never got first place. That was fate. The guy was no hero. Until everything changed. The world became different. Reality began to resemble a game. Portals began to open all over the city, leading to dungeons from which monsters burst forth. They were opposed by warriors who wielded swords and magic. They were called the wielders of mana. They became the heroes of a new era, the ones Jin Zhangdo always dreamed of being. The boy promised himself that one day he would also become one of them. Years passed. The dream never came true. When he got the results of the ability test, there was nothing useful for combat in them. Only communication, play, and patience. Jin Zhangdo was disappointed. He tried hard, he gave it his all, but it was all in vain. He realized that it was time to stop chasing the unattainable and accept reality as it is. Returning home, the guy dreamed of only one thing: to get some sleep. Entering the apartment, Jin met a stranger. At first, he thought he had the wrong door. But no, he was in his own. When he asked her who she was, the girl calmly replied that she was the universe's representative, Winry Makina, and that she was waiting for him to give him the gift. Jin Chando didn't understand anything. The girl explained, "He is the second person in the entire universe who has the third level of the communication skill. That's why he is destined for a special gift." The next second, something strange happened. The activation of skills. He fell to his knees, unable to comprehend what had happened. Jin Chando was surprised to notice that he had new abilities. The boy didn't understand where they came from. A voice, unclear, as if from inside his head, advised him to use the status window. He didn't understand whose voice it was or why he heard it. But the girl disappeared, leaving him alone with his questions. At first, Jin Zhangdo thought it was a dream, or maybe he was just overtired. But then he remembered the status window and decided to check it. Jin Chando discovered an unusual skill called infoterrory. Curiosity got the better of him, and he activated it. A golden capsule appeared in front of him, inside which were the winning lottery numbers. He realized that he could obtain such information once a day without using mana. The day before the big event, the guild leader, Choi Liun, gathered the staff to announce that their guild was competing with others for access to a dungeon containing high-quality mana crystals. He noted Jin Chando's contribution in securing the contract for the newly discovered dungeon. The staff expressed gratitude and admiration, but Cho Hakre, one of his colleagues, was skeptical about Jin's success. The boss reprimanded Cho Hakre, emphasizing his services to the guild. Jin Chando received the award and was happy that he had raised the necessary amount to realize his dream of undergoing the awakening procedure. The boy wanted to become the owner of mana. His colleague, Yoon So-yoon, went with him to the procedure, and the rest of the staff came to support them. Yoon So-yoon was happy when a seat opened up and decided to go first. Jin noticed Cho Hakre among those present, who had come solely for the sake of Yoon So-yoon. The crowd discussed the results of the awakening, calling it a lottery due to the unpredictability of the skills gained. When Yoon So-yoon left the hall, everyone rushed to the results screen. Her stats were impressive: 27 mana and 11 talents, including the main one, Holy. Her colleagues congratulated her, and her boss expressed confidence that she would become the pride of the guild. It was Jin's turn. He promised Yoon So-yoon that he would return soon. In the Hall of Awakening, he found himself in front of a crystal, the Eye of Odin. The procedure was to hold it for 10 minutes to determine its potential. However, the result was unexpected. Jin received only 3 talents, the main one being communication, which is not suitable for combat. Walking out of the room with a tense face, Jin received the Mana Watch, officially becoming a license holder, albeit without combat use. Yoon So-yoon suggested that he leave early and rest. Jin Cheondo refused, pretending that everything was fine. That evening, feeling defeated, Jin got drunk. At that moment, a woman appeared who changed everything. She gave him an unusual skill that could not be obtained simply. Typically, skills would appear either with leveling up or randomly in dungeons as rare stones. Jin's mind was in confusion, but he realized that the Infolotheria gave him a chance to learn information from the future. He began to learn the skill by receiving varied and chaotic data. Checking his status, Jin noticed that he only had 1 unit of mana left. He decided to learn how to effectively use the status window to analyze current stats in order to better plan battle tactics. Dreaming of having a larger supply of mana, he racked his brains over how to increase its volume. Suddenly, the Infoloterea gave out the coordinates of the upcoming entrance to the dungeon. Jin went to explore the indicated location and confirmed the accuracy of the information. The dungeon turned out to contain treasures. Only 2 such cases were officially registered. The peculiarity of such dungeons was that they disappeared after entering them. Jin hoped to find a legendary artifact inside. He knew that such dungeons often did not contain monsters, and this was his chance. However, as he moved forward, he realized that he was back where he started. By activating the exploration skill, he discovered a hidden door. Upon opening it, Jin met the gnomes, who congratulated him on successfully passing the first test. One of the dwarves, named Giz, said that the next test would be a fight with him. Victory would mean leaving the dungeon. But even in case of defeat, Jin could still leave this place. The fight was supposed to be a game, and Jin recognized the game. It was Legend of Legends, which he played in his youth. Having defeated first Giza, and then all the dwarves one by one, Jin Chondo earned the promised reward, a rare artifact created especially for him. The dwarves, keeping their promise, began to study the characteristics of Jin Chondo. Despite his modest amount of talent, they found something unusual in his parameters. Jin Chondo didn't understand why Guys was thinking. The gnome asked his friend to help him. He noticed that the guy had a 2nd level of game skill and a 3rd level of communication. They told Jin Cheondo that if his skills and talents were passed down in his family, he would also be able to reach the 2nd level. However, the 3rd level has a completely different potential. This ability allows the creation of the essence itself, and it is an honor for dwarves to meet someone who has the 3rd level. The dwarves originally planned to create something to balance its characteristics, but having discovered the 3rd level of the skill, they decided to make equipment that would be best suited. Giza was a little tired of this task, but he enjoyed the challenge of creating an unusual weapon for man. They went to the workshop, warning Jean that he was not allowed to enter. The boy could only guess what the gnomes were going to do behind the door. When they finished, they brought him an object, a bracelet. Jin Chondo didn't understand how this thing could be useful to him. The gnomes warned him that if he didn't like the bracelet, he could return it. The guy decided not to ask how to use it, but to find out for himself. One of the dwarves handed him a bag full of mana crystals. Jin Cheondo was very grateful. The dwarf asked him to sit in front of him and said that he had not been so happy in thousands of years. He asked the guy to come again if possible and hit him. This blow transported Jin to his dimension. The guy was angry, but looking back, he saw that he was standing on the mountain again. It seemed to him that what was happening was a dream, but the bracelet remained on his hand. The gnome's hard work even earned his respect. He activated the research skill and looked at the bracelet's characteristics. The artifact had the ability to change shape into any weapon he could imagine. However, Jin had no combat skills. Remembering the info lottery, he decided to take advantage of 6 attempts, but all of them were unsuccessful. A new day dawned, and Jin Cheondo went to work. The guild leader explained that So-yoon had worked yesterday, and he gave her the day off. Jin Chondo didn't notice anyone from the combat squad. They also had a day off since there were 6 days left before the expedition. The boy got the idea that the boss did this on purpose to keep him away from Cho Hakre. He understood that behind Choi Choi Lung's stern appearance, he was hiding a reasonable and balanced character. The boss asked if he would take part in the expedition, noting that even with poor talents, he needed to gain the first skill. The guy agreed because this is why he joined the guild. Choi Choi-Leun noticed the bracelet on his wrist and gave it a careful look. Jin Chando, without thinking much, noted that it was just a gift. He understood that taking part in the mission would be an excellent opportunity to test the master of all weapons. The team, including Jin, prepared for a mission in a D-rank dungeon while waiting for Cho Hakri, who was late. Jin reported that the dungeon was of a destructive type, designed for a maximum of 10 people. The boss gave instructions. Collect as many mana crystals as possible and help Jin and Seo-Yoon level up. Cho Hakri mocked Jin's abilities, but he decided to prove his strength in action. A squad of 6 people began the expedition with the goal of returning alive. A monster appeared on the threshold, but Cho Hakri instantly neutralized it, generously giving Soyun the right to finish off the enemy. He ordered Jin to start collecting mana crystals. The girl didn't like it, but Jin Chando didn't mind. Then Cho Hakri continued to destroy monsters, preventing newcomers from gaining experience. In the boss room, he killed the monster with one blow, preventing others from participating in the fight. He then attacked his comrades, killing several. Only Jin and Soyun remained alive. Cho Hakri revealed his corpse splitter skill, which allows him to absorb the power of the dead, and stated that he wanted to absorb Seo-Yoon's abilities. Jin activated the bracelet, blocking Cho Hakri's attack. Soyun, having leveled up, used the ability Impenetrable Shield to defend herself. Jin asked her to hold out while he killed the boss, hoping that it would allow them to escape. However, Cho Hakri said that after killing the boss, you need to wait 30 minutes to exit. Jin revealed his new skill, Link Lottery, which allows him to temporarily borrow the abilities of others, and used it to gain an advantage in battle. The system asked if he wanted to activate the new skill, and Jin agreed. The advantage was on his side. Cho Hakri didn't understand what was happening and tried to stop Jin. Armed with swords, he rushed into the attack, but his blow met with resistance. In response, Jin struck with his blade, the Heavenly Halberd, the legendary artifact of Luibu. Opening the status window, Jin saw the hero's image activated. Despite the inexperience, the body acted instinctively. Cho Hakri laughed, insisting that Jin was incapable of pushing his limits, but Jin proved otherwise. Enraged, Cho Hakri charged again, but Jin remained motionless. At the last moment, the halberd burst into flames and the blow ended the battle. Cho Hakri fell. Jin stood next to the defeated enemy, realizing that his skills had reached the level of SS. There were only 9 people like him in the entire world. He ran up to Seo-Yoon, who needed urgent help. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Someone said that she had spent too much internal energy. The mysterious man introduced himself as Feng Xian and advised Jin to transmit energy through the life gate point. Soyun's condition improved, but she needed rest. Jin thanked the general, who admitted that his time was coming to an end. He could only be here because of the weapon, and he hoped that Jin would call on him again. Before disappearing, Feng Xian promised that their next meeting would be much sooner than expected. Left alone, Jin felt bitterness. He could not save the team. Opening the status window, he received a message that he had successfully downloaded the image of the strongest character. This was rewarded with new skills and enhanced characteristics. The guild leader was already waiting for him at the dungeon. The data on the cleanup had just arrived. Only Jin Jongdo emerged from the portal, holding Yoon So-Yoon in his arms. There were no others. This was puzzling. The wounded were given immediate assistance. Choi Choi-Lung asked if Jin was okay. He replied that he had something to tell. After opening the recording, Jin Chando handed the camera over to his superiors to review the evidence. In the video, Cho Hakri dealt with his comrades in cold blood. Choi Choi-Lung was shocked. The guild leader could hardly contain his anger, considering what had happened to be his fault. Blinded by Cho Hakri's high class, he decided to send him to this dungeon without understanding the true nature of his subordinate. Jin tried to calm him down, reminding him that no one could know Cho Hakri's true nature. He used a skill that allowed him to become stronger after killing, hiding his tracks in the dungeons. But the chief's guilt did not leave him. He wanted to know what happened next. Jin couldn't admit to having a special item. He came up with an explanation. The lizard warrior, previously defeated, mutated and gained the skill of one of the survivors. The boss was surprised. There had never been such cases before. He suspected that Cho Hakri had been defeated thanks to a stealth skill belonging to one of their comrades. Jin confirmed that the boss had attacked from behind while he was threatening him and Seo-Yoon. The monster had not survived. Its wounds were too severe. The boss noticed that this was karma and decided to postpone further discussion. He sent Jin home to rest. As he was leaving, he visited Soyun. Having made sure that she was okay, he returned to his room and tiredly collapsed on the sofa. He couldn't rest. Thoughts were spinning in his head. He opened the program again and began to sort through the info lore. He was especially interested in the item Guaranteed Lottery. After clicking, he saw images of everyone who had mana and with whom he had encountered before. Among them was Lubu Fengxian, which cost 99 mana to activate. It was too expensive for someone who only had 10. Jin Xiando was shocked when 3 cards appeared in front of him. 2 of them belonged to Giza and Michael, and they were incredibly expensive. The guy understood that an ordinary person would never have enough mana to summon them. It was also surprising that there were only 2 gnomes on the list. Then it dawned on him. In order for their names to appear in the database, he would need to meet them in person and get to know them all by name. The true power of the ability was not just the summoning, but the ability to load the necessary skills depending on the situation. To utilize this power to its maximum, one had to start with low-level but well-known mana users. The last card presented belonged to Winra Machina, the girl who had come to him before. She was expensive. This was a reminder. The primary goal is to increase the mana limit. Realizing that resources were insufficient today, Jin decided to postpone using the linking lottery until tomorrow. Later, he tried to activate the info archive again, but luck again passed him by. At night, going out to the open area in front of the house, the guy felt that this place was ideal for the next attempt. When his mana was restored, he activated the link lottery. The effect of the skill was amazing. However, the sensations were completely different from those when calling Luibu. The image of Liu Shan the Happy appeared in the status window. Jin Chongdo couldn't believe his eyes. Liu Shan, a historical figure associated with the fall of the Han dynasty, was considered the epitome of irresponsibility. At that moment, a voice rang out. The stranger, who turned out to be that same Liu Shan, was indignant that they thought of him in such a way. He declared that he was the one who stood at the head of the entire human race. Then, with a grin, he asked why Jin had such a face as if he had eaten something wrong. Jin Chongdo didn't understand how Liu Shan's skills could be useful. He noticed his disappointment and suggested that he take a closer look at his talents. Opening the status window, Jin found that Liu Shan's talent was Lucky Fortune, level 2. Liu Shan asked him for his opinion on the ability. There was no answer. Jin Chongdo did not believe that luck could be useful in the dungeons. However, Liu Shan advised not to rush to conclusions. Gradually, Jin realized that he could apply Lucky Fortune to the info library. He immediately took advantage of the first attempt of the day. The system issued a golden capsule with information about the appearance of a new dungeon. The reward for clearing it was announced to be a skill stone, which made Jin delighted. He was ready to kiss his companion. Although the exact skill remained unknown, the stone itself was worth a lot of money. He asked Liu Shan why he was so kind to him. The answer was simple: gratitude for the call. Luibu had said the same words earlier. It seemed to Jin that both of them should be in heaven or hell. However, Liu Shan explained that he was not a real person, but only a copy created from data. The meaning of what he said was unclear at first. Remembering the message from the status window, Jin realized that not only abilities were being loaded, but also information about the person, forming a new personality. All this was possible thanks to his 3rd level of communication talent. The more he learned about this skill, the more amazing it seemed to him. Liu Shan confirmed Jin Chongdo is its creator, and he added that it is worth perceiving this as a gift from a representative of the universe, a sign of favor. Anyone Jin calls upon will help him with all their might. He thanked Liu Shan. He said that his time was up and disappeared. At work, the boss announced the dissolution of the Justice Guild. Many fighters were killed, and the atmosphere among the staff was despondent. He tried to find new owners of mana, but no one agreed to work with them. Rumors about high losses in a short period of time affected him. Having admitted his guilt, the boss apologized to everyone. Left alone with Jin Chongdo, he asked whether he planned to continue on the path of the owner of mana. The genie answered in the affirmative. In response, he heard a warning. Next time, luck might turn away and he might die. However, the decision remained unchanged. This was his goal. As a sign of support, the boss handed him an envelope. Inside was an application form for joining the Mana Association Academy. This was his way of helping Jin gain experience elsewhere. He was going to give the same form to Yoon Seo-yoon, even though he doubted her decision to continue. Jin confidently said that she was stronger than him and would definitely agree. Choi Choi-lung noticed that they don't think about those who worry about them. After that, he shared new information. Another mana watch was found among Cho Hakre's things. It turned out that he belonged to another guild, Karma. This organization is the largest international guild, uniting many members. Their leader bears the title of head of the cult, and members are willing to kill for him. The boss warned Jin to be careful. It was unknown how the guild would react to the loss of one of its own. He added that he would notify Yoon Seo-yoon about this at the hospital. Jin thanked him for his concern. In response, he heard wishes of good luck and success. The next day, Jin used the info library again. Liu Shan noted that despite the good mood, luck does not always decide everything in this world. This time, luck did not bring anything rare. An attempt to repeat the prank was also unsuccessful. Liu Shan watched this with regret. The next morning, Jin decided to try his luck in the link lottery. This time, he got the card. The attempt was successful. Jin Jongdo stood in front of the academy. After updating his mana clock, he noticed high stats thanks to the Conqueror of all weapons talent and the golden card that summoned Bradamante. Yoon Seo-yoon, noticing his thoughtfulness, simply smiled, without asking the expected question about his knowledge of her abilities. Jin felt that he was unworthy of her and hurried after her. At the entrance exam to the Mana Academy, candidates were given a test. Deliver a powerful blow to a target. 30 points is a passing score. One of the participants, having not received enough points, accused the device of malfunction, but the instructor proved its serviceability, showing 88 points. Most failed. Yoon So-yoon scored 67 points, which impressed the observers. It was Jin's turn. He activated the unique talent Game, temporarily doubling his stats. His result was 91 points, almost an academy record. This surprised everyone, including Yoon Seo-yoon, who realized that he was clearly hiding something important. A month passed. Choi Chol-yun began to be visited by numerous men, heads of various guilds. Their goal was to find out the whereabouts of Yoon Seo-yoon, who was nicknamed the Saint. The academy's schedule was as follows. The first week was devoted to the theory of monsters, the second to weapons training, and the third to preparation for random and unforeseen situations. The program concluded with field training. On the last day of training, students were faced with a final test, which was supposed to determine their readiness for real work. Yoon Seo-yoon was worried about the upcoming test. A stranger approached her on the street and invited her to join his guild. The girl refused. Another man was waiting for her at the entrance to the building with the same proposal. Yoon Seo-yoon made it clear that she had no intention of joining any of the guilds and asked to be left alone. At lunch, she complained to Jin Cheondo that they were following her even to the gym. Jin advised to consider the offers and choose the guild that provides the best conditions. However, the girl insisted that she would live the way she decided. Yoon Seo-yoon wanted to invite Jin somewhere after graduation, but at that moment, Kang Hae-shik sat down next to them. He suggested that Jin practice together before tomorrow's exam. He refused. Jin understood that the training process took place in a virtual space where the rules of the game were in effect. And in the game, his characteristics were enhanced thanks to his talents. Yoon So-yoon, on the other hand, decided to join the training. She began to strike at Kang Hae-shik, who deftly blocked them. The fight looked spectacular. At this time, an instructor was walking down the corridor. Having seen the training, he realized that the guys were seriously preparing for the upcoming test. Among all the students, he singled out Jin Cheondo, a young man who had made an impression from the very beginning. 3 years ago, there was one such student. He also crossed the 90-point mark in the entrance exam. He had the most talent among all the applicants and also refused to join the guild. The difference between Jin's score and that guy's was only 5 points. The final test for the students was to pass the Class E dungeon. Successful completion of the test meant becoming a real hunter, with the official right to enter the dungeons. For safety, the group was accompanied by a Class B instructor, as required by the insurance procedure. Yoon So-yoon felt uneasy. The fears left over from their last foray still lingered in her mind. Jin Cheondo was worried about her. He wished the girl good luck. Ken assured Jin that she would be okay. After some time, confirmation came. The boss was defeated, and the group safely exited the dungeon. Yoon Seo-yoon completed the task. Soon, it was Team B's turn. So-yoon wished Jin good luck in the upcoming test. The instructor volunteered to accompany the team. The group successfully entered the dungeon. He noted how quickly the participants reacted. Gina stood out in particular. His reaction was instantaneous. For this, he received a point. The guy gave clear instructions and coordinated the team's actions. It's just a pity that his talents are terrible. With more talents, he could have reached the level of a S-class hunter or higher. An orc appeared on their way. Jin ordered Hae-shik to use the shield. This enemy was not supposed to pose a threat. However, even 2 could not contain him. Jin, using his weapon, struck the orc and destroyed him. At that very moment, the monster behind the door sensed their presence. Jin apologized to Heishik, admitting that he underestimated his opponent. The instructor began to suspect that they were not in Class E, but perhaps in the dungeon between Class E and D. He needed to be on guard. A wave of monsters descended upon them. Jin commanded the archers to prepare to fire and Heishik to block the attacks. With coordinated efforts, the team dealt with the orcs. From the outside, the instructors couldn't understand what was happening inside. One of them demanded an immediate report. Having learned about what was happening, he asked his colleague a direct question. Where did he get the information about the dungeon? The answer was unexpected. The recommendations came from another guild. The students were at a loss as they watched the argument between the instructors. It soon became clear that the information about the dungeon had been falsified using mana. Yun Seo-yoon was worried. She wanted to know what Team B was really up against. Meanwhile, the group reached a massive door, behind which the room with the boss was hidden. Everyone leaned on the doors trying to open them. Jin Chando felt an uneasy aura, something he had only felt around the D-class dungeon lizard. But this was even stronger. The team entered. A terrifying creature appeared before them, the boss. The instructor immediately ordered a retreat, but the monster was already moving towards them, enraged and unstoppable. This wasn't an E-class dungeon. A monster of this type could only live in an A-class dungeon. The dungeon was sealed. The leader of the S-Rank Players Association group, Seo Sang-hee, arrived at the scene. She was informed that one of the best B-rank instructors had entered with the group. However, she already knew that the dungeon type was not a clearing dungeon, and the boss in it was rank A. Rank B players would not survive in such a dungeon. There was no way to save them. All that remains for them is to avenge their deaths. Inside, meanwhile, the situation was heating up. A huge monster, the boss, suddenly attacked the group. Panic gripped the participants. None of them had ever encountered such a monster before. The instructor activated the technique, Fetters of Hypnosis. This allowed the monster to be stopped for a while. He commanded the group to gather and deal damage as quickly as possible. From that moment on, he assumed the role of commander. But the young men were dumbfounded. In the face of death, they could not move. The bonds began to break. The monster broke free. The instructor understood that if things continued like this, no one would survive. And at that moment, Jin Chando rushed into battle. With his sword in hand, he dealt a powerful blow to the monster. The monster roared in pain. No one could believe what was happening. An ordinary trainee managed to injure the boss of Class A. The weapon in his hands glowed with power. 10 minutes before, when the group was still paralyzed with fear, Jin was trying to find a way out. Liu Shan came to him. He confidently declared that Jin would cope. However, Jin had his doubts. He did not consider himself a fighter. Liu Shan proposed to use fusion. The genie opened the system. From the connecting lottery, he got a diamond card. Liu Shan happily reported that this was real luck. Thanks to this card, Jin was able to deliver his powerful blow. Suntae was shocked. He didn't understand how the intern could do such a thing. But Jin just shrugged and said he was just lucky. The temporary personality that the card opened up was Siegfried. Despite the injury, the boss remained in action. Jin did a scan. The orc was at the peak of S rank. The monster went on the attack again. However, Jin dodged, moved to the side, and using the power of the sword, delivered another blow. Jin Chando successfully blocked the monster's powerful attack and then delivered a precise counterattack. His stats were greatly enhanced, and at this moment he possessed the strength of an SS rank hero. The awakened personality associated with the card also granted him unique abilities, including awakening dragon blood. The monster rushed to attack again. Jin dodged, parried the blows that rained down from all sides, and held back the enemy's onslaught with the help of his sword. He continued to counterattack, confidently in control of the situation. The instructor had difficulty comprehending what was happening. The strength that the ordinary student was demonstrating was beyond the norm. Realizing that a protracted fight was dangerous, Jin decided to end the fight. Heading straight for the monster's heart, he delivered a crushing blow, piercing the enemy through and through. The monster fell to the ground. Comrades rushed to congratulate Jin Chando, expressing gratitude for saving lives. The instructor acknowledged his exceptional abilities, although he knew that many questions still lay ahead. However, unexpectedly, the monster began to move. The orc waved his hand and forcefully threw Heishik aside, as if he were a light doll. The creature rose from the ground, transformed. It became faster and stronger. Jin's attempt to strike again ended in failure. The monster easily repelled the attack. The instructor began to suspect that this was not an ordinary orc in front of them, but something else, perhaps with an activated skill on the verge of death. The creature used magical power and paralyzed the entire group. His appearance now matched that of an orc executioner. He furiously rained down blows on Jin, and he dodged them with difficulty, saving his last strength. The awakened personality continued to transmit information. The effect of dragon blood worked. This skill allowed one to temporarily increase one's stats when one's life was critically low. Jin couldn't understand how such a dangerous skill ended up in the enemy's hands. However, Siegfried's help was coming to an end. The sword in the guy's hands suddenly became as heavy as lead. Jin couldn't lift it anymore. The monster felt his weakening. The friends remained immobilized, and Jin's mana ran out. The connection with Siegfried's personality was broken. He was left alone, without support and strength, not knowing how to continue the battle. The monster prepared for the final attack, intending to capture Jin Chando. He wasn't going to give up. He couldn't afford to die. Not now, when he had finally become the hero he had dreamed of being since he was a child. He made a promise to Yun Seo-yun to return alive. Squeezing the hilt of the sword, Jin gathered all his strength and prepared for the decisive blow. With a new thrust, he delivered a crushing blow. At that moment, he managed to perfectly reproduce the shape of the ancient weapon, an artifact known as the king of all weapons. All the power stored in this mythical blade was released. His talents as a player, enhanced by the awakening of dragon blood, increased 1,000-fold. Strength, speed, perception, everything reached incredible levels. Jin's punch hit the target. The orc was defeated. The system immediately recorded the victory, rewarding him with an improvement in his stats. Jin glanced at his bracelet. It was the one that not only restored his health, but also activated his skills at a critical moment. For his brilliant victory, he received a prize of extremely high quality, an improvement in characteristics, and a new level of the Dragon Blood Awakening skill. The new skill seemed almost like a second life to him. It was so powerful. His comrades looked at him with surprise. Kong Hai-shik came closer and asked with concern in his voice if Jin was going to kill them all now. The young man did not understand what this question was about. He-shik, confused, decided that Jin was actually a ranker hiding his true identity. He assumed that now, so that no one would reveal his secret, he would simply get rid of the witnesses. Jin was quick to dispel their fears. His strength came from the first skill, but he could not reveal its essence. He-shik took this as an encouraging sign. He decided that once he got his first skill, he would become just as strong. Meanwhile, the dungeon was activated. Outside, hunters and association staff gathered, ready to meet the wave of monsters that might break through. The gate shook, and a team led by an instructor emerged from there. Seo Sang-hee couldn't believe her eyes. The instructor confirmed the clearing of the dungeon and officially declared the end of the exam. Then her gaze fell on a rare artifact, the battle axe of the Orc Lord. Such items had not appeared for over 10 years. She decided that it was the instructor who had defeated the monster and taken possession of this trophy. A representative of the academy was also present at the scene, confident that the rare artifact would be placed at their disposal. Referring to protocol, he offered to help transport it. But Jin Chando stopped him. He firmly stated that this trophy belonged to him, because it was he who defeated the Orc Lord. The representative found it hard to believe that Jin Chando had managed to defeat the orc in the dungeon. However, the instructor officially confirmed it was this young man who destroyed the monster. San-hee felt embarrassed by her colleague's behavior and ordered that all students be immediately sent to a medical facility. Later, Sontae told her in detail about what happened. According to him, Jin Chando cut the monster down with a single blow, splitting its body in half. He also noted that the guy entered the dungeon with a spear, but in the midst of the battle, it transformed into a sword. The instructor suggested that Jin had used the artifact. Sun-hee was amazed. Such abilities are extremely rare. The whole world knew of only one person, an American player who had a similar skill, close to SS rank. Hearing this, she pulled Sontae along with her, stating that they needed to act without delay. Meanwhile, Jin Chando was in the ward, studying his updated characteristics. The dungeon expedition gave him a huge boost in development, but he still didn't gain any new attacking skills. He understood that in order to truly grow, he needed to go through dungeons as often as possible. The only problem was that he didn't know where to look for them. At that moment, San-hee and Sontae entered the room. They inquired about his well-being and reported that the false information about the dungeon came from the Karma Guild. The target of the attack was not any of the students, but Sontae himself, the son of the head of the academy. The school was responsible in any case. As an apology, Jin was offered compensation. Seo Sang-hee made him an offer to work for the good of the state. Jin categorically refused, not wanting to become part of the system. The girl asked him not to rush to conclusions and explained that he had already paid the amount that would exempt him from the mandatory 3-year service. In return, he had to undergo cleanup 4 times a month on orders from headquarters and return 70% of the loot to the state. Even this did not appeal to Jean. He did not want to belong to any organization. He decided to rely on the Infalor and refused. Then So Sang-hee suggested another option, accepting so-called cleanup requests. These were dungeons that were not assigned to guilds and appeared all over the world. Hunters were given the opportunity to clear them, but they had to pay 30% of the cost of the stone obtained during the mission. The proposal interested Jean. He realized that with such a system, he would always have the opportunity to grow. He agreed and was ready to sign the contract. As she left, Sun-hee asked one last question. Would Jin Chando agree to sell her the Orc Lord's battle axe in installments? The next day, Sang-hee brought a contract which Jin Jung-do immediately signed. He also agreed to sell her the goblin axe, after which the girl began to carry it with her. She informed Jin that the next dungeon expedition would be in 2 days and suggested that he take a look at the association's training hall while he was there. Jung-do's attention was drawn to one of the fighters, Han Sang-hyuk, whom Sang-hee introduced him to, asking Han to be polite since Jin Jung-do was an important guest. Han Sang-hyuk suggested that they have a competition. At first, Jin wanted to refuse, thinking it was an empty show of force. However, upon hearing the mockery, he changed his mind. Despite Seo Sang-hee's doubts, Jin Jong-do stated that he had to show his abilities since he was hired for the job. The girl wasn't sure that he would cope in a virtual battle because she relied only on his usual skills. But she didn't yet know that Jin had a special talent for games. Jin Jong-do activated his skills and the duel began. During the battle, his talents were increased by 100%. Seeing Han Sang-hyuk with 2 swords, Jin couldn't help but remember unpleasant moments from the past. The guy figured that if he defeated the Orc Lord's killer, he would gain experience. And if he lost, he would still be able to boast about his strength to the group leader. With incredible speed, he tried to defeat Jin, but lost. The duel is over. Jin Chando said that he wanted to end the tour. He had some things to do. Later, while checking his stats, he noticed that he was 1 mana point short of activating the Link Lottery and summoning Yu Seong. Using his last-ditch effort, he summoned the personality of Ionis from the kingdom of Karmala. Jin had never heard of such a place and asked the guest's age. Jonas replied that he was born in 5728 from the birth of Christiania, the goddess of their world. Then Jin realized, in front of him was a creature from another world. This opened up new prospects for him. The opportunity to summon not only earthly heroes, but also great magicians or sword masters from other worlds. This means that perhaps he will be able to uncover the secret of the dungeons that appear on Earth. Inspired, Jin tried his luck with cards again that night. But he was unlucky. This time it was Liu Shan again. Disappointed, he didn't understand why this particular character was caught again. After all, he had already spent mana on him. Liu Shan, noticing his mood, drew the master's attention to the characteristics. It turned out that Yu Sung's strength had increased, and Jin himself had received a new skill, choosing a combination. In addition, Liu Shan's characteristics have improved. Jin realized that every time a character was strengthened, his skills also became stronger. Although he still thought that Liu Shan's abilities were not the most useful, he realized that with each new stage, the growth would occur exponentially. However, Jin was doubtful. Had Liu Shan reached his limit? Jin Chando wondered why, out of all the possible cards, he had been given this one again. Liu Shan explained. The deeper the connection between the master and the individual, the higher the chance of it falling out again. After saying goodbye, Liu Shan disappeared. Jin Qiando decided to try out skills he hadn't had a chance to try before. Each characteristic increased by another 10 points, and this improvement affected not only Liu Shan, but also Jin himself, which made him incredibly happy. Jin Jongdo activated the combination selection skill and saw that he could only use the personalities that were already in his album. However, only those who belonged to the same era were allowed to be uploaded together. He quickly realized that he could combine Luibu and Liu Shan. Deciding to test this possibility, Jin opened the album to move them to the combination menu. However, the skill required significant costs. 40 units of mana were needed to activate it. Realizing that this was too much and could be useful at a more important moment, Jin Chando decided not to waste the resource for now and save it. In addition, he tried to combine Liu Shan with Gui's, but the system rejected the attempt. Such a combination was impossible. Then Jin realized that the essence of the skill was not in randomly combining personalities, but in the ability to narrow the choice to create new, rarer, and stronger characters. Jin Jongdo realized that if he combined the characters correctly as he originally planned, he could create a new hero from the Three Kingdoms era. The next day, he went to the dungeon. There, using his abilities, he scanned the space and learned that only goblins lived inside, and that a mana stone was hidden under the boss room. This knowledge gave him a huge advantage. Jin Chondo confidently entered the dungeon. He easily dealt with the goblins, leveling up, and then destroyed the hobgoblin boss with one blow of his spear. Having found the mana stones, he returned back. The man who was waiting for him was amazed that he had managed to do it in less than 2 hours. When Jin Jongdo asked about other dungeons, he was advised to look for a team through ManaNet, a platform for hunters. After trying to find a place on the team, he was rejected, which irritated him. Then he decided to take the Mind Stones to the association. There he learned that the loot contained a rare stone, another stroke of luck thanks to his exploration skill, which he intended to keep for himself. After training, he saw a news report about monsters breaking out of a dungeon outside the city. Although there were no civilian casualties, one hunter died. Jin Chondo thought. He had been nearby recently, but he hadn't felt anything suspicious. He suspected a connection between the breakthrough and his recent rejection of the recruitment, but quickly dismissed the thought. Returning home, he decided to try his luck in the Infilor again. And unexpectedly, he received a rare capsule with important information. In 4 days, an artificial rift in the underground will occur in the Kanama area, a phenomenon caused intentionally. Jin Jongdo realized that he couldn't handle this alone and couldn't speak openly about the problem, or he would put himself in danger. He decided to hint about this to San-hee. At this point, the system gave him new information again. He was tasked with preventing the damage that would be caused by the dungeon's rift. If successful, a reward from the true universe awaited him. It reminded Jin Chondo of the day he first met Winry and received his powers. He didn't understand it then, but now he realized. Winry gave him power because the universe could interact with him. The guy was a connecting link for her. And now he knew. Their destinies were intertwined. The next day, the dungeon could not withstand it. Monsters began to break out. The Hunters Association was alarmed. 2 dungeon ruptures had occurred in 2 days without prior warning. Not a single hunter nearby sensed their approach, which baffled the leadership. Sang-hee showed a video of men being killed near the explosions. In her opinion, someone has learned to create artificial faults. After the meeting, San-hee felt powerless. In order not to remain idle, she decided to entrust the investigation to Jin Chondo. Meanwhile, Jin was having his graduation ceremony. He could not miss such an important moment, despite the lack of time. Instructor Suntae congratulated the boy and expressed confidence in his future. Yoon Seo-yoon gave Jin a talisman, wanting to protect him from bad luck. When she asked about his plans, there was hope in her eyes for working together in the future. Kang Hai-shik suddenly intervened in their conversation and invited Jin Chondo to go with him to the dungeon. Jin Cheondo regretfully informed his friends that he was busy at the moment and could not spend time with them. He knew they could help him, but he couldn't risk their lives. The guy decided to stop the impending breakup on his own. For 2 days in a row, he explored the entire city. While checking places where there were no civilians, he discovered 3 dungeons. The best way to prevent ruptures was to clear the dungeons, but Jin Jongdo didn't have access to them. He understood that if he did not act quickly, the monsters would break out and the consequences would be catastrophic. At that moment, a call came from San-hee, who asked him for help with the dungeons. Jin Jongdo asked to be sent to Gangnam. Sun-hee replied that there was a D-rank dungeon there, which made the guy very happy. Jin Chondo agreed to go on the mission the next morning. Sang-hee decided that she should also stop by Gangnam after work. The next morning, Jin Chondo successfully cleared one of the dungeons. His skills improved significantly, but it didn't help prevent the breakup. He realized that the threat did not come from here. Most likely, the problem was either in the A-rank dungeon or the C-rank dungeon. Jin Jongdo was inclined to think that the rupture would occur in the A-rank dungeon located on the bridge. He went there immediately. There were only 10 minutes left before the break. The place was quiet, and for a moment it seemed to him that he had made a mistake. However, soon a car drove up to the bridge and men got out. Jin Jongdo decided that the government had probably taken control of the situation. Watching them, he realized that everything was not so simple. The men activated the dungeon and disappeared using the teleporter. The guy remembered one of them, but now he had a more urgent task: to stop the breakup. He called for Liu Shan's help and used a special combination he had prepared in advance with his personality and Lubu's personality. He instructed Liu Shan to remember the strongest warrior he knew. An amulet lit up in Jin's pocket, a blessing from a saint that gave a significant boost to luck. Thanks to this, the number of available cards was reduced to several hundred, dramatically increasing the chance of success. Meanwhile, the monsters began to break out. Jin Chando prepared for battle, holding a spear in his hands. He activated a summon that reduced the attack power of enemies. The incarnation of General Zhang Fei appeared before them. He, seeing hundreds of opponents, felt neither fear nor doubt. The Cobalt warriors rushed to attack. Jin Zhangdo activated the talent Invincible, which significantly reduced the damage taken when fighting alone against multiple enemies. He attacked enemies with incredible speed and accuracy. Their numerical superiority did not help. The spear in his hands worked flawlessly. In the midst of the battle, he used the power of the Lord of all weapons to recreate a perfect ancient spear, with which he delivered a powerful blow, crushing entire ranks of monsters. Although the next wave was smaller, monsters continued to appear. The dungeon boss still hadn't shown up. Jin Chando realized that it was necessary to reduce their numbers as quickly as possible. He continued the fight, dodging blows and delivering precise, deadly attacks. His spear became an extension of his body, unstoppable and deadly. Zhang Fei watched the battle with growing excitement, regretting only that he could not take part in it personally. Another attack was repelled, but Jin Chando felt his concentration begin to wane. When the new wave of kobolds came out, Zhang Fei's time there came to an end. Before leaving, he passed on some of his abilities to Jin Chando, and along with them, a new skill, Tiger Roar. Left alone, Jin Chando decided to try his luck again. Liu Shan mentally supported him, and Jin activated the Link Lottery. He understood that in order to get a rare or higher card, he had to reduce the number of personalities to 9. The monsters were already rushing towards him. Meanwhile, he drew a new card. This time, the luck was only partial. The card was not a diamond. He received the King Clarence Sword, which grants access to Clarence's unique skill. The connection with the sword was now personified by Mordred, the renegade knight who had once betrayed his father. Hordes of monsters continued to pour out of the dungeon. Together with them, the leader of the kobolds emerged from the abyss. Jin Chando immediately noticed that the leader's level matched Mordred's. He clearly realized that the upcoming battle would be especially difficult. At the boss's command, the monsters rushed into battle. Jin Zhangdo, tightly gripping the king's sword, prepared to repel the attack. Activating Clarence's skill, he instantly destroyed all the opponents with one powerful blow. For a moment, Jin Zhangdo couldn't comprehend what had happened. The bodies of the defeated monsters lay around him. He realized that he had killed them all instantly. Mordred noted the sword's boundless power, but using its skill required time to recover. There was one surviving enemy left behind, the Cobalt boss. Enraged by the loss of his subordinates, he rushed to attack. Their blades crossed, and Jin Chando realized that their strength was roughly equal. The battle promised to be difficult. Jin had almost no time and mana left, but he was determined to fight to the end. He struck one blow after another, knowing that failure would mean death. Attacking furiously, the boy realized that the slightest mistake would cost him his life. Mordred advised taking a break, but Jin Chando was sure that the chance to finish off the enemy should be used immediately. Gathering all his strength, he rushed into the attack, but the boss managed to deal him a heavy blow. Jin Zhangdo was wounded and fell to the ground, while his opponent raised his weapon in triumph. However, at that moment, a new skill awakened in Jin, Dragon Blood. His wounds were instantly healed, and his resistance to enemy attacks increased significantly. He had previously been afraid to use this skill, believing that it could cost him his life. But now he saw that everything had turned out in his favor. Having regained his strength, he rushed into battle again, attacking the monster with redoubled fury and eventually cut it in half. Meanwhile, San He, feeling a powerful surge of energy, hurried to the bridge. Arriving at the scene, she saw the bodies of many slain enemies and Chando standing among them. He reported that the gap had been repaired and emphasized that he had personally destroyed all 311 monsters, leaving none for her. Sun He could hardly believe that someone could handle such a horde on their own. After these words, Jin Zhangdo lost consciousness and fell down. Later in the hospital, Jin discovered that he had reached B rank and gained a new skill. Seo Sang-hee visited him, expressing her gratitude for saving lives. Jin answered her questions about the criminals evasively, hiding his sources of information. He also expressed suspicions about the Karma Guild's involvement in the breaks, to which Sang-hee confirmed that they were the main suspects. For destroying the monsters, Jin received many trophies, which Sun-hee offered to sell through an auction. Left alone, Jin encountered Winry Makina, who offered him a wish. Although his request for a mana increase was denied, he received a special ticket for the Link Lottery, allowing him to purchase additional tickets using stat points. A new purchase feature has appeared in his status window. Soon, Yoon Seo-yoon visited Jin in the hospital room. He invited her to join the team, and she happily agreed. Left alone, Jin Chando opened the status window again. The new feature allowed you to receive a free bonus ticket for your first purchase and also activated a newbie bonus. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to try his luck. He had 30 tickets for the link lottery. After checking that there was no one around, Jin Jongdo began to spend the tickets one by one. The first attempts did not bring anything valuable. He remained calm, counting on success in the next attempts. On the 17th attempt, he was already starting to feel nervous. After the 20th attempt, there was still no diamond card. The 28th attempt also did not bring anything valuable. Frustrated by his failures, he was already beginning to lose faith in luck when he suddenly felt someone's presence. It was Liu Shan. He was worried by the guy's appearance. Jin Qiando sighed heavily as he looked at the remaining tickets. He felt like a failure without Liu Shan's help, and hoped that with him present, his last attempts would be successful. Still dreaming of getting the diamond card, he tried not to lose hope. He was brought out of his thoughts by San He, who expressed concern about his appearance. Jin Chando attributed it all to fatigue and nightmares. He also realized that the system's restriction on purchasing tickets played into his hands. Otherwise, in a state of emotional stress, he would have spent all his characteristics without thinking. Sun He led him to the room where the trophies and loot collected from the monsters were kept. There, Jin Chando examined the items offered and discovered among them equipment that could enhance mana. His attention was drawn to the Cobalt Chieftain's combat gloves, which allowed him to increase his mana reserves. After trying them on, he was convinced that the gloves fit him perfectly and decided to keep them for himself, refusing to sell them. While Jin Jongdo was examining the artifacts, Seo Sang-hee was talking on the phone. After finishing the conversation, she said that a representative of the guild that owned the dungeon where the rupture occurred wanted to meet with him. Jin Chando didn't understand the true reasons for this meeting, but he guessed that his role in the incident had attracted increased attention to him. Sun He suggested that the goal might be to try to recruit him or lay claim to the loot. Inside, they were met by a man who introduced himself as the head of the KNM Guild. He demanded to see proof that Jin Chando had solved the problem in the dungeon on his own. Faced with a refusal to provide information, the man offered an alternative: a duel. If Jin Chando won, there would be no more claims. While Jin Jongdo was pondering the man's strange persistence, he used his research skill and realized that this was the imposter he had met on the bridge before. He asked San He to come with him to a soundproof room. There, Jin tested her skills and was convinced of her sincerity by seeing her trust skill. To explain what was happening, he revealed to San He that he had a research talent that allowed him to learn information about people. After that, he said that the man in front of them was a terrorist. Sun He asked him not to disclose this information officially, as there might be a spy among their people. Jin Qiando decided to act differently. He used the card of the truthful Jaina, activated her skill Room of Truth, and asked the man to state his name. The imposter was unable to lie under the skill conditions and attacked Jin Chando. A fight broke out, in which Seo Sang-hee helped to neutralize the criminal. The mask was torn off and the terrorist's identity was revealed. With his skill, Jin Chando was able to prove his affiliation with the Karma Guild. Meanwhile, the Karma Guild lost contact with their agent. The management decided that it was better to eliminate their informant for reliability. They also discussed Jin Jongdo, who stopped the rift single-handedly as an E-rank hunter. They were surprised that such a low-ranking hunter could achieve such a result. The management blamed the monkey for the failure of the operation. He was warned not to make such mistakes in the future. Later, Sang-hee informed Jin Jongdu that due to the high value of his trophies, he would have to pay significant taxes. As a solution, she suggested taking a test to increase rank, which would reduce the tax burden. Together, they went to the Hunter Testing Center. Seo Sang-hee was confident that Jin Jongdo would be able to obtain a B rank since he had cleared an A-rank dungeon. S-rank examiner Chang Chul appeared at the test and decided to personally test Jin. Using the talent game, Jin Chando doubled his stats. The fight began, and despite the enemy's great strength, he managed to prove himself. Zhang Qiu-sang noted Jin's skill and awarded him a B rank. After the test, he admitted that he had not met such interesting young hunters for a long time. On the way out, Jin Jongdo met Seo Yun, who was ready to begin their first mission. Kang Haishik also joined them. Jin assembled a team to clear out the dungeon that Haishik found. Although he could have handled the dungeon alone, Jin Chando gave his comrades the opportunity to gain experience. In battle, Soyun showed herself not only as a priestess, but also as a combat monk, which surprised and slightly frightened Khan. In the final boss fight, the team worked together as a team, with Kong fending off attacks and Yun striking from behind. Jin Chando was pleased with their progress and praised them for a job well done. The guy suggested going to the association to test their skills, but Jin Chando ordered them to go without him. He had his own plans. He was going to try his luck at the castle by spinning the lottery. It occurred to him that the choice of a person in the connecting lottery depends not only on luck, but also on the place where the call is held. Back then, on the bridge, he summoned John Fei not because he considered him the strongest general, but because he was on the bridge. This meant that the person emerging through the lottery was linked to the place and its legends. He launched the linking lottery. The diamond card fell out. At first, nothing happened. But then he saw a man. It was Chong Ya-ken. Jin Chando was surprised by its stats. For a diamond card, they were quite low. The man said that they were near a palace that he had built himself, and offered to find the treasures hidden there. Using the bricks hidden in the wall, Jin Chando activated the hidden entrance to the dungeon. It was an unusual dungeon, not a combat dungeon, but a treasure dungeon. Zhang Ya-kyung warned that in order to receive the reward, Jin Jong-do must pass a test. A security guard met him inside. After checking his status, the guy discovered a new skill, detection, which will help him search for dungeons in the future. The first was a test of knowledge. The guard asked a riddle, which Jin Chando easily guessed. Next comes the test of strength. Jin Chando prepared for battle. After scanning the enemy, he saw that their characteristics were approximately equal. The fight turned out to be more difficult than he expected. His usual skills did not work. Then he used the green dragon maneuver. The enemy dodged, considering him a fool for trying to attack with a spear at close range. But suddenly, the spear in Jin Chando's hands turned into a sword. The enemy was stunned and received a blow that forced him to surrender. A hole appeared in the wall, opening the way to a secret room. Inside, Jin Jongdo found 3 strange objects and called on Zhang Ya-ken for advice. The man asked him to take the Chronicles of Medicine. The system suggested learning a new skill. Jin Chando agreed, and thanks to the skill of stability, a fusion occurred. He received a unique skill, full immunity. Now he was immune to all diseases and poisons. The next subject was exploration of the territory of the state. Having mastered it, Jin Chando improved the ability detection, and by merging with the talent game, he received a new skill, dungeon map. Now all dungeons within range were marked on his minimap. The last item was a loading crane. With its help, the guy mastered the inventory skill. After leaving the secret dungeon, Jin Jongdo thanked Zhang Ya-ken. Full of new strength and skills, the guy hurried to test them. The dungeon map seemed especially cool to him. Having figured out its mechanics, he realized that the color of each dot on the map showed whether the dungeon was occupied or not. To avoid wasting time, he set up the system to only receive notifications about new unoccupied dungeons. Now the entire dungeon world was in his hands. The team, along with Jin Chando, cleared another dungeon. There, he received a bloody sphere of poison and decided to keep it just in case. Everyone was pleased with the results. Kang Hai-shik asked if anyone had plans for the evening. After hearing negative answers from Jin and Seo Yoon, he suggested going to his house where there was a training room. Jin Jongdo knew that Kang Hai-shik was rich. He had bought them dungeons before, but the scale of his wealth was still surprising. Hai-shik explained that his brother makes a lot of money, and he would like to meet Soyun. As the team leader, Jin Cheondo agreed. When they arrived, a huge building towered before them. Hai-shik clarified that he did not own the apartment, but the whole thing. This made the team curious about his brother's identity. They were met at the door by Kang Ha-chun, Hai-shik's older brother. Jin Chando recognized him as one of the 8 SS rank hunters. During the conversation, it became clear that Kang Hai-chun was a big fan of Jin Jongdo in the past when he was a professional player. Moreover, Soyun admitted that she was the one who created the fan club in honor of Jin. After a pleasant evening, Soyun went home. Before leaving, Hee-chun thanked Jin Cheondo for saving his brother and promised to oversee his training. Afterwards, while checking Hee-chun's characteristics, Jin Chongdo activated the contact between their talents. This almost caused a rift in his fate, but Unri Makina intervened in time, slowing down time and giving him a necklace to stabilize the overload. Later, using his luck, Jin Cheondo drew 2 gold cards in a row. With their help, he called upon the Nurse Nightingale and received healing skills. After finishing this, he activated another ticket, raised Lu Shan's level, and received an urgent message. In 3 hours, So Sang-hee would be in mortal danger. Meanwhile, Sun-hee investigated the murder of the prisoner. The girl, realizing that an influential organization was behind what happened, decided to continue patrolling. Upon discovering the breach, Sun-hee made a determined decision to stop the monsters before reinforcements arrived, unaware that she herself had become part of a carefully planned trap. The lycanthropes crashed down on her like a dark wave, baring their fangs and flashing their greedy eyes in the thickening darkness. Sun He fought the lycanthropes, skillfully slaying the monsters with her axe. Despite her skill, the monsters were outnumbered. She took them down one by one until their leader, the boss, appeared before her. Seo Sang-hee rushed into the attack without hesitation and using all her strength defeated him. However, her joy was short-lived. New enemies began to gather around her, members of the Karma Guild. They arrived to kill her. Realizing that she needed to hold out until reinforcements arrived, the girl prepared for defense. However, the men said that there would be no help. There were those in the association who wanted her dead. The situation seemed hopeless, but suddenly Jin Cheondo appeared. His appearance stunned the mercenaries. No one understood who he was and how he managed to so quietly deal with hunters of their rank. Activating the Flower Blade dance skill, he began to destroy enemies with lightning speed. Sun He was exhausted, and Jin Jung-do knew that they couldn't hold out for much longer. He conceived of a breakthrough, moving in one direction, clearing the way, but the crowd of enemies did not allow them to leave easily. Then he noticed the enemy leader and, activating the skills Blitz and Smiting Cloud, struck him. However, it was not possible to kill the commander immediately. It was necessary to save San He. Jin Chondo pulled her out of harm's way, sacrificing the opportunity to finish off the enemy. Seeing that his strength was insufficient, Jin Chongdo summoned Liu Shan. He, laughing at his ability to attract trouble, helped activate the linking lottery. By combining the cards of John Fei and Liu Shan, they received an emerald card, a chance to summon a great general. The Lord of all Weapons has perfectly recreated an ancient spear that gains power with long-range attacks. When the enemies tried to attack Sang-hee from afar, Jin Jungdo deflected the arrows. The person he summoned was the sleeping dragon Zhao. Using his skills and spinning spear, he broke through the encirclement, dealing blows that caused enemies to fall one after another. The remaining enemies were ordered to finish off Sanhai at any cost. With their last strength, they rushed at her, but Jin Chondo stood in the way again. He picked up the girl on his shoulder and, changing his spear for a sword, broke through the crowd, destroying everyone in his path. To save Sun He from the barrage of attacks, he threw her into the air, distracting the opponents while he struck them down with lightning speed. Jin Jongdo admitted that he chose this method to deal with enemies faster. Sun He had never seen such strength. He stunned the leader but did not kill him. The girl confessed that the prisoner, whom the association tried to interrogate, was killed. Sun He suspected there was a veneer in their ranks. Together they returned to the association. At an emergency meeting, Sun He explained that she was attacked by 200 ubis and that she was saved by the hunter Jungdo. In order to find the spy, she asked everyone present to undergo a test. For this, Jin Chondo activated the oath skill. Everyone had to say out loud, "I am not a spy." One by one, people said the phrase until there was only one person left who could not pronounce it. Realizing that it was he who sent the assassins, Sun He saw him rush at her with a weapon. The traitor was stopped and San He was safe. Jin Chondo spent a lot of effort to activate Jaina's summoning. Before that, he had too little mana left and was unable to summon it. Sun He lent him a mana-boosting ring, without which he would not have been able to do it. Thanks to the artifact, Jin Chondo was able to summon Jaina, but Sun He warned him to be careful with this item. After the battle, Jin Chondo thanked Jaina for her help. He was surprised that the owner of such abilities only had a gold card. Jaina explained that after activating the skill, she loses control over it. If someone other than Sang-hee had used this skill, she wouldn't have been able to stop it. She also admitted that she died when she activated her power. Her friend accused her of witchcraft, and Jaina could not object to her. After this, she was burned at the stake. Hearing this, Jin Chondo realized that he had to be extremely careful with powers like this. Meanwhile, disappointment reigned in the enemy camp. The guild suffered a crushing defeat. Their assassination squad was destroyed. One of their men reported that someone had helped her, a man who was skilled in the use of a spear and sword, whose face could not be seen. They assumed that it might be Kang Hae-chun, an S-rank hunter, although they didn't understand why he was there since he wasn't a member of the association. They decided that his appearance was an accident. The guild hoped that the hostages, who had been given a blood seal, would not be able to tell anything important. They also hoped to obtain information about the association's meeting through their spy. Realizing the scale of the failure, the guild's leadership understood that the association would now act more cautiously. One of the men noted the absence of a member of their group. The guild leader explained that the defeat had pushed him to new actions. This man was determined to take revenge on Jin Chondo and was preparing something terrible for him. At this time, Jin Jongdo met with the head of the association, who admitted that it was he, not Sang-hee, who activated the truth room. The man expressed his gratitude to him for saving Sang-hee and helping to expose the spy. As a token of his gratitude, he offered to let Jin Chando keep the ring despite his attempt to return it. The man expressed hope for further cooperation, and they agreed to provide mutual assistance. Jin Chando was overjoyed to receive a valuable artifact and eagerly awaited the reward for the completed task from Winry Makina. Winry Makina was waiting for him at home. Jin Chando asked her why he received rewards for quests that he learned about from the info library. Winry Makina was unable to give a direct answer, citing that he did not yet have enough influence. She assured him that she would not harm him and recommended that he continue to develop in order to increase his influence over time. When it came to the reward, Jin Jongdo expressed his desire to receive something that did not require sacrificing stats. Winry Makina promised to take his wishes into account. As a reward, he was offered the skill Double Summon. This skill allowed Jin Chando to summon two personalities at the same time, combining their characteristics and talents, choosing the highest of them. The guy realized that with the help of a new skill, he could hypothetically create a weapon with unique qualities. However, the girl warned him of the limitations. Using double summoning required a large amount of mana and reduced the skill's duration in order to maintain the energy balance. Despite the risks, Jin Chiondo happily accepted the reward. Winry Makina passed on the skill to him, and as she said goodbye, assured him that the true universe would continue to watch over him. One weekend, Jin Jongdo spent time playing with Kong Hai-chun, noting that he was showing excellent results. Although Hee-chun claimed that Jin Chiondo was simply giving in, Jin's attention was drawn to a strange structure in the house, which suddenly began to move, which greatly frightened him. Hee-chun explained that the structure was an interdimensional door, installed at the insistence of his friend. The girl who came out of the interdimensional door turned out to be Ellie McDowell. Ellie was an SS rank hunter from America, the creator of the VR Awakener, the distributed control system, and the world ranking system. She was also the first awakened and the richest person in the world. Ellie noticed Jin Chando's bracelet and immediately recognized its origin, which surprised the guy. Hee-chong explained that she had the unique ability to analyze any item except for the two legendary artifacts, the Crescent Blade and Excalibur. Now, Jin Chando's bracelet was added to them, which defied her analysis. Hee-chong asked Jin Cheon-do for a favor, mentioning that after clearing the treasure dungeon, he would definitely know about creatures from other worlds. They gathered information by questioning the inhabitants of the dungeons and found out that one of the people made a deal, handing over the earth in exchange for the destruction of humanity. The main suspect in this was considered to be the head of the Karma Guild, although there was no evidence yet. Jin Cheon-do was shocked by the scale of the conspiracy. In their opinion, in the future, humanity would have to face much more dangerous opponents from other worlds. Some dungeon creatures were considered their possible allies. Ellie and Hee-chun decided to entrust Jin Cheon-do with this information because they were counting on his help. The artifacts from the treasure dungeons were weapons that surpassed anything they knew. Since Jin Cheon-do had an artifact of exceptional value, Ellie concluded that he had an outstanding talent, recognized even by beings from other worlds. Ellie was confident that Jin Cheon-do was capable of surpassing even SS rank hunters. That's why she was so counting on his help in the future. Ellie promised to support him in any situation, urging him to contact her without hesitation. Kang Hae-chun confirmed her reliability. Jin Cheon-do acknowledged the honor of having an ally like Ellie McDowell. They shook hands, cementing their new partnership. Through a hole in the sky, humanity was watched by beings who believed that its end was near. Winry Makina was the first to notice this threat. She realized that time was running out and that the impending disaster was inevitable. During another foray into the dungeon, Heshik's shield was damaged. Soyeon supported her comrades because there was only a little bit left to finish off the monster. In the midst of the battle, the monster managed to break through Jin's protective suit. This made the girl very angry. She struck the enemy with fury, putting all her strength into the blow. After her attack, Jin Cheon-do dealt the finishing blow to the monster, destroying it. The team cleared the dungeon in 3 hours. Everyone was happy about the successful completion of the task. However, Jin Jongdo was a little upset. It became clear to him that their equipment was outdated, and he suggested upgrading the equipment. They went to a shop for hunters, where potions, weapons, and various armor were sold. Jin Jongdo had heard of the hunting mall, but what he saw exceeded his expectations. The store was bright and lively. Seo Yoon said goodbye briefly, deciding to go shopping alone. Heshik suggested going to the gun shop. On the way, they overheard a conversation between several guys who were complaining that they hadn't won anything worthwhile. This conversation gave Jean the idea to visit the lottery shop. The lottery shop offered goods at low prices, mostly junk, but sometimes there were real treasures. Jin Jongdo decided to use his research skill to find something valuable for sure. As he looked around the shop, he almost despaired until his attention was drawn to some beautiful armlets. Suddenly, he heard a faint voice calling for help. Tracing the source, he discovered the ring. Answering the ring, he saw before him a girl named Ixia, a spiritual entity connected to the ring. She revealed that she was one of the 13 pieces of armor created by the Golden Dragon. Jin Jongdo knew the legends about her, but he never thought he would meet her in reality. Thanks to the communication skill, he was able to hear her call. Ixia called him the Great Dragon, a gift from God to this world. Jin Chondo tried to explain that he was an ordinary person, but Ixia believed in his exceptionalism. She explained that the ring was now sealed, and Jin Jongdo would not be able to use its powers until he removed the seals. Realizing the importance of the find, he promised to free Ixia. In gratitude, she offered to become his consultant in choosing equipment. With her help, Jin Chondo picked up some great items. It seemed to him that she had some hidden talent for evaluating things. Later, after seeing the purchases, Hysek was amazed at their quality and joked that Jin Jongdo is the only captain who buys his own equipment for his team. When Jin was alone with Ixia, he asked what needed to be taken into account before removing the seal. At that moment, he received a notification. A new dungeon had been discovered nearby. After checking the status window, Jin noticed that he had become significantly stronger. His strength was already approaching the A rank level. Realizing this, he decided to try to remove the seal before the campaign. He began to examine the ring. The removal of the first seal was successful. Then he took off the second one, surprising Ixia. The attempt to remove the third seal failed. It required special conditions. Ixia was shocked by his success. She talked about her talent, intuition, with the help of which she helped the guy choose the best products in the store. Inspired, Jin Chondo went into the dungeon. Ixia warned that she had a bad feeling about this. And indeed, immediately after entering, a monster pounced on him. He repelled the attack with his spear, preparing for further battle. The rest of the ghouls were approaching him. Jin Chondo decided to use a new skill, the Roaring Tiger Strike. With one powerful blow, he destroyed all the enemies at once. Ixia, watching the battle, noticed how many corpses were left unused and asked if she could eat their remains. Having reached the room with the boss, the guy started the lottery and summoned Tristan's personality. Without fear, he went inside. There he found a boss, whom he destroyed using a bow and arrow. After leaving the dungeon, Jin Jongdo went to visit Seo Yun's father, who was like family to him. However, on the way, the guy suddenly felt someone's presence. He became wary and asked Ixia if she felt it too. The girl just shook her head. Nothing alarmed her. Jin decided that he was imagining things. Seo Yun's father didn't greet him very warmly. The man's eyes showed resentment. He had expected Jin to come to see them earlier. The guy started apologizing, explaining that he was busy with the team and couldn't find the time. He sincerely praised Seo Yun, calling her a rising star, recalling how she had helped him out more than once. Suddenly, his father asked if Jin was dating Soyun. He hastened to explain that he had known her since childhood and treated her like a younger sister. The answer only increased the father's resentment. The girl's mother and Soyun herself were watching the scene. On the street, the girl began to apologize for her father's behavior, but Jin assured her that everything was fine. He gave the girl a gift, a beautiful necklace that increased perception by 2 points. Their conversation was interrupted by an unknown woman who asked for help. Jin Chondo was wary. He hadn't noticed her appearance. It turned out that one of her abilities was silent walking. Moreover, she was not alone. She was accompanied by a group of men. Sensing something was wrong, Jin Chondo took the girl's hand to increase his luck and launched the infilor, hoping to gain an advantage. He was lucky. He drew a gold card. When the men saw Jin Chondo starting to get stronger, they tried to attack. Using Dear Muid's personality, the boy skillfully dodged the attacks. He asked if they worked for the Karma Guild. The woman was offended by this and quickly denied the accusation, stating that they were there for the help of the saint. But Jin Chongdo didn't believe it. The battle flared up again. The enemies surrounded him, but he fought back, delivering lightning-fast blows with 2 blades. The woman noticed that Jin Chondo left no open, vulnerable spots and acted with terrifying efficiency. Over time, Jin realized that there was no one on the street. He guessed that the enemies had created a barrier to set up an ambush. Trying to find the one who supported the magic, he finally found and neutralized the magician by destroying the barrier. Grabbing Seo Yun's hand, Jin hurried to lead her away. But the park seemed to turn into a labyrinth. No matter where they went, they couldn't get out. The guy suspected that another barrier had been placed on top of the destroyed one. He asked Seo-yoon if she had any idea what was happening, but there was no answer. Soon, a man appeared in front of them, jumping from the pole. Jin Jongdo decided that he too had come for Seo-yoon's help, so he suggested that they simply formally invite her to work. However, the stranger coldly informed him that he only wanted Jin's head. He blew purple smoke in their direction. Seo-yoon, without losing her composure, activated an impenetrable shield, which allowed Jin Jongdo to repel the attack. While examining the enemy, Jin noticed a dark aura and determined that it belonged to Karma. The stranger's aura seemed much more dangerous to the boy than that of Ryu Se-rin, the woman who had attacked them earlier. When Jin's aura weakened, the enemy went on the attack. Liu Shan, Jin's inner voice, was panicking, begging him to do something urgently. So-yeon managed to help. She reflected a powerful blow, strengthening Jin with her blessing. But the situation was getting worse. The girl managed to block only part of the blow, and she was injured. Jin Chando launched another infilor and pulled out a card. Now a bow and arrow appeared in his hands. Using the explosive arrow technique, he attacked the enemy, but the barrier withstood it. Jin then used Sahu Yuan's identity and tried to freeze the enemy, sealing him with an ice arrow. He hoped to limit his mobility if he couldn't break through the defense. With the blessing of the saint, fortune smiled upon the genie again. He fired the divine archer's arrow and finally destroyed the enemy's barrier. The man became furious. Jin's strength was waning, and Seo-yoon was also on the edge. Unexpectedly, Ryu Se-rin came to their aid. Jin decided to play a trick and said that in front of them was an assassin sent after Yoon So-yoon. The woman continued her attack without delay, insisting that they were the ones who came for the girl first. Realizing that he couldn't cope on his own, Jin decided to bet on a new lottery. In the midst of the battle, Liu Shan's level increased, but Jin's mana was completely exhausted. Meanwhile, the fight between the boy and Ryu Se-rin continued. He tried to capture the woman with his powers. Ryu Se-rin was having a hard time dodging the attacks. She asked Jongdo to speed up. The guy used up all the tickets he had saved for a rainy day, but only received regular cards. There was little left until the golden grant, but there was no more mana to use items. Jin was struggling harder to parry his opponent's blows. He knew that if this continued, they would all die. He remembered Winry saying that the human body couldn't handle a sudden increase in talent, but he decided to take a risk. He took off the medallion she had given him. It was his last chance to change the situation. The sky above the guy darkened and a whirlwind rose up around him. He was pierced by a gigantic force pouring from the heavens, the energy of the universe itself. He remembered, without protection, an ordinary person would not be able to withstand such pressure. When the whirlwind died down, Jin Chando rose to his feet. Opening the status window, the guy saw that the process of a sharp increase in level had begun. Pain shot through his body. Seo-yoon watched helplessly, not knowing how to help. Meanwhile, the enemy, repelling Ryu Se-rin's attacks, remembered why he came. His target was Jin Chando. He noticed that the guy's internal energy was out of control and decided that he had used something like black blood, but failed. Confident that this was his chance, he struck. Yoon Seo-yoon tried to hold back the attack by protecting Jin with her shield. Suddenly, the guy got to his feet and blocked the blow himself. The awakening of dragon blood has occurred. His talent increased dramatically, and the event was recognized as one of the rarest in the history of the universe. As a reward, he received a trial ticket to summon a black card, a mythical level entity that ranks above diamond heroes. While the enemy was trying to comprehend the changes in Jin Jongdo's aura, Ryu Se-rin dealt him a blow. The enemy decided to destroy her, but Jin Chando took up the bow. Seeing the old, battered bow, the enemy only grinned, deciding that the guy had not become stronger. However, after firing the arrow, Jin Chando easily broke through the enemy's protective barrier. He couldn't believe what was happening. Jin Jongdo knew. He had used the identity of Li Xiong'ai, and now he could shoot even a monkey with his eyes closed. Using the jump, the enemy tried to escape, but Jin Chando fired another arrow. It caught the fugitive at the moment of teleportation. Realizing that the boy was becoming a threat to their master, the enemy decided to die with him. However, Jin Chando fired first. Looking at the fallen enemy, he realized that he did not recognize him. On the enemy's body hung an amulet with a terrible aura, a mythical artifact that had to be taken. But suddenly, Jin Chando felt a sharp deterioration in his condition and lost consciousness. During this event, his oracle skill changed. He could now choose what information to receive, from the future or the past. When Jin Chando woke up, he saw Ixia nearby. She said that he was brought here by Yoon Seo-yoon and Ryu Se-rin. He was glad to know that Yoon Seo-yoon was okay. He realized the incredible power of black cards. Even a strong opponent could not oppose him. The guy thought about the future. Will he be able to summon even more powerful heroes? Soon, Ryu Serin and Yoon So-yoon entered his room. The woman introduced herself as a member of the Big Dipper Martial Arts Association, meaning she was enlightened. Previously, Jin Chando believed that enlightened ones live in isolation. Ryu Serin bowed deeply to Yoon Seo-yoon and asked her to save their mistress. They moved to the next building, where they saw a young girl in a room deep in sleep. She was the heiress of the Big Dipper clan. Ryu Serin handed the statue to Yoon So-yoon. The girl didn't understand why she needed it. The woman explained that before she fell into a coma, the lady had predicted that the clan's problems would be solved if this statue was given to Seo-yoon. Jin Jongdo felt a familiar aura and used his research skill to find out that it was a full recovery skill stone. After holding the statue in her hands, Yoon Seo-yoon gained a new skill through her holy talent. Ryu Serin said that she had previously complained about her health. She had the gift of foresight and knew that she would fall into a coma. Before this, she saw the beginning of the monster invasion of Earth and tried to unite the hunters, but the elders rejected her plan. During the meeting, she was attacked and lost consciousness. Now the whole clan hoped for the salvation of the mistress, because with her help, they could fight back the monsters. When Jin asked about the timing of the invasion, Ryu Serin replied that only the lady knew that. Meanwhile, Seo-yoon mastered a new skill and promised, as a saint, to do everything possible to save the lady's life. The lady's condition began to stabilize, but the treatment required enormous efforts from the girl. The light in her hands gradually faded. Seeing this, Jin Chando decided to intervene. He activated Nightingale's personality and used the skill, Sister's Help, strengthening Seo-yoon's magic. The girl suddenly felt a surge of energy. With the help of her new power, she managed to awaken the lady. She opened her eyes. The lady thanked Soyeon for saving her, and did not forget to acknowledge Jin's merits. The guy was surprised. She knew their names. Jin realized that this girl could really see the future. Without wasting any time, he asked her what she knew about the monster invasion. The lady thought for a moment and then sadly noticed that a lot of time had passed since she had awakened. Jin Chando quickly asked how much time was left before the attack. But the girl's answer stunned him. It has already begun. At that very moment, the system vibrated. Alarming messages began to come in. New dungeons were activated all over the world. The rifts opened one after another, their appearance impossible to explain. Jin Cheondo quickly realized that he urgently needed to gather more information. He decided to test out the new features of the info library, hoping to get a hint. Using the lottery, he received a capsule with the message, "Destroy Dardaron." The name was unfamiliar, but my intuition told me that it was connected with the dungeons that had appeared. Jin knew he didn't have to attack him right away, but the feeling of impending doom didn't leave him. Meanwhile, tragedy was unfolding all over the world. The hunters from America suffered a crushing defeat. In Paris and Tokyo, the situation repeated itself. Monsters killed everyone who dared to enter the new dungeons. It became clear that these creatures were intelligent, and less than 30% of the scent teams survived. A state of emergency was immediately declared. The authorities demanded that entry into these dungeons be immediately prohibited. The head of the squad was tasked with studying intelligent monsters and assembling a special team for cleansing. But Sun Hee knew that gathering high-ranking hunters into one team would not be easy. She needed someone she could trust. She remembered Jean and dialed his number. Sang Hee offered Jin to join the new cleanup team. The reward was 10 billion won, and the guy accepted her offer. San Hee, along with 4 hunters from other guilds, were waiting for Jin Chando. The group prepared to enter the dungeon. When they entered, they saw 3 doors. Sun Hee ordered them to split into teams of 2, choosing Jin Jongdo as her partner. They began their exploration. Jin Chando immediately sensed the strangeness of the situation. Sun Hee explained that such missions are separate worlds where monsters do not take over the earth, but prepare hunters for future battles. The monsters were already on guard. Jin Chando used his research skill and determined that they were a small tribe that was preparing for a fight to the death. Sun Hee didn't understand their language, but Jin Jongdo explained that he was able to understand their speech thanks to his communication skill. The quest status has been updated. The goal is to defeat the Kamka tribe, collect the souls of the sun and moon, and destroy the shackles of their souls. Realizing that the key to completing the mission was to completely destroy the enemies, Jin Jongdo and Sang Hee rushed to attack. Using the Green Dragon's maneuver and the Fierce Tiger's barrage of attacks, he managed to break through the tribe leader's defense. As a trophy, Jin Chando took the shield of the defeated enemy. Meanwhile, San Hee dealt with the rest of the opponents on her own. Jin Chando called Ixia, allowing her to eat the bodies, but she refused. After analyzing her characteristics, he noticed that her development level had reached 51%. Ixia admitted that she accelerated her development by eating the body of an enemy with an inhuman aura that they had encountered earlier. Since the souls were collected from the crystals left behind by the corpses, Jin Chando handed over the care of them to Ixia. They reached the village of the Kamka tribe, where they discovered an obelisk, the Shackles of Souls. Jin Chando decided to destroy the obelisk without entering the village. His spear throw was successful, and the task was completed. The system notified them of the transition to the next location. Now they could observe the actions of other teams. Jin Zhongdo discovered an altar that could influence the dimension inside the crystal ball if magic or spells were used. He contacted Chan Yaken, who advised him to channel energy into the altar and the crystals collected during the mission to use as catalysts. After understanding the altar's working principle, Jin Chando strengthened the defense of one of the teams. However, the hunters were still surrounded by monsters. Sun He ordered Jin to prepare the altar and arrange for her to be transported to her comrades, confident in the safety of such a plan. Jin Qiando insisted that she trust him. He managed to successfully activate the altar and send Sun He to help the surrounded group. Jin Zhongdo realized that he now needed to help another team that was also facing a dangerous enemy. The hunters tried to block the enemy's attacks and inflict damage on him, creating gaps in the defense, but their blows did not leave the slightest trace on the monster. Even repeated attacks did not bring results. The monster only mocked their helplessness. Jin Chando didn't know how to act in this situation and knew that he had to get to the team immediately. However, to do this, he needed 10 more stones. He remembered seeing the missing stones on the shield of an enemy he had defeated earlier. Meanwhile, the men were struggling to hold their ground, being subjected to ever-new attacks from the monsters. It was at this critical moment that Jin Chando appeared on the battlefield. With the help of a double attack from the dragon and the tiger, he managed to destroy the monster. The boys watched this with surprise, not understanding how a B-rank hunter managed to achieve such a result. One of them invited him to join their guild, but Jin Chando refused, planning to create his own. When everyone returned from the mission, he noticed that Sun He and her group had not yet completed the task. The guy went to help them. Soon access to the boss's room opened. After looking around, they discovered another altar through which they could lower or increase the difficulty of the boss. It was decided to fight the next day, having first weakened the enemy. At night, while everyone was sleeping, one of the hunters tried to prove his strength alone by activating the boss's room and increasing his level. The sudden attack of the monster woke up the others. Attempts to stop the monster with shields and attacks were unsuccessful. Even San He and the S-rank hunters couldn't harm him. Jin Chando realized that the situation was critical. He used a medallion that diverted negative energy and launched an info lottery. As a result, Luibu's identity was unlocked, and with it, the black card skill and the ability to summon the red hare, a legendary warhorse. By jumping on the red hare, Jin Chando's stats increased significantly. On a fiery horse with a spear in his hands, he rushed into battle. The boss, sensing a worthy opponent, accepted the challenge. Jin's attack was devastating. At that moment, San He realized that even the 10 billion promised for this mission could not compensate for his feat. The opponent praised the power of Jin's strike. The boy, riding his warhorse, was ready to strike again. The weapon master perfectly reproduced the relic, enhancing the characteristics of the rider and mount. Jin Chando quickly approached the chieftain. He first tried to eliminate the threat, the horse, and swung his mace at it. However, the warhorse parried the blow with its hoof and responded with a powerful blow with its head, causing the enemy to stagger. The leader was stunned. He realized that this was not an ordinary animal. Taking advantage of the confusion, Jin Chando used his heavenly halberd to deliver a wounding blow. But the enemy was not going to give up and rushed into battle again, demanding that Jin show all his fighting spirit. The guy activated the skill Wall of Cursed Spirits, reducing the opponent's defense and stamina. This was followed by another blow, this time fatal. As he fell, the chieftain acknowledged Jin Chando's strength and passed on his skill, Kamka's Fighting Spirit, which increased the youth's stamina by 20 points. Before his final death, Jin Chando asked him a question, remembering his main task, the destruction of Didardaron. The chieftain confirmed the importance of his mission, explaining that Didardaron was the ruler of the Kusantu archipelago and the patron of the dead. After leaving the dungeon, Sun He announced the completion of the mission and expressed her gratitude to Jin Zhongdo. The guild members apologized for what happened on behalf of their organization. Seo Sang He asked Jin to come to the association the next day to update his mana clock. She also said that his reward would be revised. Despite his A rank, she intended to pay for the clearing as for an S rank dungeon and raise the guy's status. The girl asked Jin to rest and prepare for the next day. The next day, Jin successfully passed the exam. His mana clock was updated to reflect his new rank. In the hall, he noticed many representatives of various guilds, all of them trying to lure him into their ranks. Walking into the designated room, Jin breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did he remember to check the stat window. After seeing the results, he realized he was one step away from S rank. The young man hoped to receive a war steed, the red hare, as a reward, but he again received the skill Green Dragon Maneuver. Although this skill now required less mana, Jin was a little disappointed. However, the most pleasant surprise was the new feature, the abolition of the penalty for the loss of experience points in case of failure. He had never seen anything like this before. Now the path to leveling up became much easier. The culmination of the joyful events was a message from the Golden Capsule. A new dungeon would open tomorrow, and Jin had its exact coordinates. Meanwhile, the Karma Guild decided to use the last of the Blood Jade. The only being capable of creating such artifacts was the monkey, but his whereabouts remained unknown. The guild members discussed the new task. A journey to Dokdo awaited them, a territory where they would encounter monsters about which almost nothing was known. Jin Chando went to the coordinates in search of a new dungeon. At the appointed time, an entrance appeared at the designated place. It turned out to be the doppelganger's lair. Jin knew that this monster was capable of completely copying the abilities of its opponent. He approached Ixia and asked if he could copy his equipment. She replied that in her world, doppelgangers only copied skills. This answer made Jin happy. This meant that a battle was about to take place between an A-rank hunter and an S-rank monster. He confidently entered the dungeon. At first glance, it seemed empty. There was silence all around. Ixia noticed the reflection beneath his feet. The enemy was hidden in the reflection. Jin Chando struck the floor, and a doppelganger materialized in front of him. The monster instantly scanned Jin's abilities and considered them equal. The battle began. Jin's first blow was repelled. He expected to defeat his opponent instantly, but he was not going to give up so easily. Jin used the Green Dragon Maneuver, but was met with resistance again. The doppelganger was confused. Despite completely copying the skills, he could not inflict any noticeable damage on Jin. Then Jin Chando activated the Tiger Roar skill. A crushing blow from the spear knocked the enemy off his feet, forcing him to his knees. The doppelganger attempted to rescan Jin, but was stunned. The boy's abilities seemed illogical and difficult to predict. In anger, the monster activated the hidden tiger attack. However, Jin, using the divine halberd, managed to stop its onslaught. The guy was already preparing to deliver the fatal blow when the doppelganger asked for mercy, assuring that he ended up in this dungeon against his will. Intrigued, Jin was willing to listen to him to learn more about the monster invasion of Earth. However, it turned out to be a trick. The enemy activated the lottery skill. He was dealt a regular card. Jin realized with annoyance that the monster had even copied his luck. However, the doppelganger was unable to withstand further combat. Jin delivered the finishing blow and killed him. The victory brought him a considerable reward. His level rose by several levels at once. He took the skill stone he came for. Meanwhile, dead hunters lay near the dungeon. The guild members realized that it was their turn to act. Having placed the bloody ball into the resulting dungeon, the two men were about to leave. However, their plans were not destined to come true. Didardaron, disturbed in his lair, came out. He was filled with rage. He did not understand who dared to disturb his peace. Taking a look around the area, he noted that the place was ideal for his plans. Didardaron was ready for entertainment. He called upon his ships, the dark vessels of antiquity that rose from the engulfed depths of the sea at his command. A crew loyal to him rose from the depths and took their places on board. However, creating such impressive forces cost Didardaron dearly. He spent too much energy. At that moment, he felt someone's gaze on him. All information about what happened was immediately received by the Information Bureau. Analysts reported the unit on the island was lost. The Minister of Defense did not understand how the dungeon could have been breached. It became known that the Japanese self-defense forces, which were at sea, intended to prevent the monsters from reaching Japanese shores. They hoped to destroy the monsters and obtain their remains for further study. Didardaron was ready for the meeting. He cast a thick fog over the ships, hiding from them everything that was happening. An invisible threat has approached. He intended to take everything from the people: food, money, treasures, and lives, wanting the whole world to see the greatness of the ruler of the Kusanta archipelago. The ships were soon sunk. Meanwhile, Jin Jong-do noticed a lot of missed calls and contacted Siu Sang-hee. Together they arrived at headquarters where Jin saw Kang Hae-chun. The man introduced himself as the Minister of Defense, which immediately made it clear to Jin the seriousness of the situation. Everyone's attention in the room was focused on the big screen. It showed footage of the sinking of Japanese ships and pictures of the creature responsible for the disaster. Jin instantly recognized him. It was Didardaron. The minister explained that the monster needed to be destroyed before it reached the Korean peninsula. An airstrike on Dokdo was originally planned, but the intervention of the Japanese defense forces made the operation risky. To avoid an international conflict, it was decided to involve hunters. Kang Hai-chun said that he could not stay away and expressed his willingness to participate in the mission. Jin Chung-do also volunteered to help. It was decided to attack with 2 detachments from different directions. Kang Hai-chun and Jin Chung-do were appointed as detachment leaders. His candidacy was chosen unanimously. Ixia expressed confidence that he could handle it. The minister said that the evacuation of citizens would begin in an hour, and the operation would begin at around 10 o'clock. The hunters needed to get to the port immediately. Jin Cheondo apologized and said that he needed to prepare something before leaving. He asked Hei Chong about the location of the nearest forge. He allowed Ellie to use his forge, which was located in his house. Jin Chondo was going to forge a special weapon. Having summoned a person who could help him with this, he conceived the idea of creating the twin blades of the great general Yi Sun-sin, the twin blades of the dragon. The young man admitted that as soon as he heard that the battle would take place at sea, he immediately understood what kind of weapon needed to be created. With these blades, he planned to summon Yi Sun-sin himself to achieve victory together. Jin Chondo was a bladesmith. He knew they had to give it their all, and to do that, they needed luck. The boy used his dual summoning ability and summoned Emperor Liu Shan. This was the first time he used this ability. With their help, he set to work. There was no room for error. Ixia watched how much effort he put into it. After forging, the weapon had to be quenched in water. Liu Shan was confident that his luck was helping them all. The blades were ready. Jin Zhongdo didn't know what to do next. He was told that something important had to be engraved on the blades, because the twin dragon blades contained a strong spirit. He engraved Yi Sun-sin's oath on them. The blades began to glow with a special energy. Jin became the first person to create such an object. For this, he was entitled to a reward. His assistants were genuinely happy. They had succeeded. Meanwhile, the fighters tried to spot the target from the sky, but due to dense fog, they had to reduce their altitude. Suddenly, the pilot noticed a figure on one of the fighters. It was Didartaron. The Lord of the Undead declared that no one would be able to cut through the sky as long as he lived. He destroyed fighters in the air. The only way left for people was the sea. Didartaron wanted to see who was stronger, their ships or his ghost ship. He prepared for battle. The ship's captain noticed that the number of dead was growing and they could not remain idle. He gave the order. In case of direct confrontation, the hunters will enter the battle. Kang Hei-chun accepted the order. The captain ordered all ships to set course for Dokdo, but thick fog stood in their way. Radars stopped working. Communication was interrupted. The captain ordered to shoot at everything that moves. The silhouette of a ship appeared on the horizon. He decided it was an enemy and ordered to open fire. The target was successfully hit. The ship began to sink, but they soon realized that it was an allied ship. On the starboard side, a real enemy appeared, a ghost ship with Didardaron on board. Didardaron laughed at them. He rammed their ship with his ship. The commander ordered his soldiers not to take prisoners. The army of the dead rushed to attack. Kang He-chun watched the scene and saw that their allied ships were being boarded. But because of the fog and the shelling, they could not get closer and help. There was a battle on board the ship. Didardaron gave the order to sink the enemy ships, divide the squadron, and destroy them one by one. He felt invincible on the water. Suddenly, he was informed that a boat was approaching. He didn't take it as a serious threat. Jin Chondo was sailing on a boat. He hoped he wasn't late. Swimming closer, he jumped onto the deck of the ship. A man on board asked who he was. Jin Chondo introduced himself and said that he was the leader of the squad. He explained that he had been delayed due to unforeseen circumstances. He was now ready to take command of the ship. Noticing the aura emanating from him, the men agreed to obey. Drawing his blades from their sheaths, Jin Jungdo summoned the personality of Admiral Yi Sun-sin. With the summoned personality of Li Sun-shin, Jin Jungdo's abilities have been strengthened. The naval battle skill was activated, which increased the armor and mobility of his ship, and the tactics level, which disabled enemy intelligence. In addition, he earned the leadership level, which increased his allies' trust and abilities. Jin Jongdo noticed that the twin dragon blades resonated with the leadership talent, greatly increasing his team's stats. Lee Sun-sin noticed that there were enemies nearby, and Jin Cheondo needed to attack immediately. Ixia, in turn, warned that it could be a trap. Jin was pleasantly surprised. Apparently, after receiving the third level, Ixia learned to predict the intentions of her opponents. Yi Sun-sin noted that in a naval battle, it does not matter whether it is a trap or not. The one whose ship is stronger wins. To win, Jin Cheondo must believe in his ship. At this time, Didardaron's army reported to their leader about the approach of an enemy ship. It was a ship activated through the summoning of Kabuxion. Seeing the ship's dragon-like shape, Didardaron was delighted. He decided to capture the ship and make it part of his ghost fleet. The ship fired a fiery salvo that the enemy was not prepared for. Many of the dead on board Didardaron's ship were destroyed. The ship rammed the enemy vessel, and Didardaron himself was thrown away. Jin Cheondo reported the sinking of the enemy ship and requested the coordinates of the remaining enemies. The third squad reported that no one was visible. The fourth squad reported that the enemy had disappeared into the fog. The fifth squad spotted the enemy and requested instructions. Jin Cheondo asked for the coordinates, but this turned out to be impossible. The radars were not working. Yi Sun-sin advised him to calm his mind and focus on the energy of his allies. With his advice, Jin was able to locate the team. He ordered to increase the distance and wait for help. However, it turned out that there were two enemy ships. Jin Cheondo ordered the ship to be steered between them and prepared for a collision. Fire was opened. He ordered the hunters on board to board the left ship and clear it out. Jin Cheondo decided to handle the right ship on his own. Thanks to his blades, he destroyed his enemies with one blow. Didardaron, who was watching the events, activated Sea Lord's Wrath, wanting to show his true power. Jin Cheondo saw him approaching quickly. Didardaron intended to sink the enemy ships at any cost, realizing that this was his chance for victory. Ixia noticed that the storm was making her more excited. Jin Cheondo knew that it was impossible to sink a ship like Didardaron with one salvo. He gave the order to change course after each hit and keep an eye on the radar. He was ready to handle everything else on his own. Didardaron was sure that no one would leave him. He intended to get a ship in the shape of a dragon. Relentlessly pursuing the enemy, he followed him until he led him to the rocks. Then Didardaron realized that it was a trap. He did not understand how the enemy managed to pass through the fog, through which he himself could not see anything. However, Jin didn't need to look outside to know the way. His abilities helped him. Didardaron believed that simple stones would not stop him. But Jin Cheondo didn't lure him to this place by accident. His plan succeeded. Didardaron's ship got stuck between the rocks. Enraged, the chieftain vowed to get Jin and kill him, even if it meant using all his strength. Ixia noticed that the enemy was about to escape from the trap. Jin Cheondo calmed her down and activated the flow change skill to finally secure the advantage. Didardaron was furious. Lee Sun-sin announced that his time was coming to an end. He thanked Jin for the opportunity to fight shoulder to shoulder and wished him luck. Ixia was in a panic, not understanding how they would be able to deliver the final blow. Jin Cheondo knew he couldn't handle Didardaron alone. But he still had the info library. He decided to use the black card ticket, his reward for creating the first artifact. Jin chose a combination of Mordred and Tristan cards, hoping that the connection to the legend would help him. And he was lucky. A powerful stream of mana fell on the ship. Didardaron did not understand where this energy came from. At the epicenter stood Jin Cheondo, holding a sword in his hands. The Master of Weapons perfectly reproduced the legendary relic, Excalibur. It was a sword that could defeat any monster with one blow. Only one hero could wield it, summoned by the black card, King Arthur. Didardaron realized that his situation was hopeless. He tried to move his ship, but to no avail. The vessel did not obey him. The ruler was confident that as long as his ship was with him, he was invincible. Jin Cheondo, clutching his sword tightly, approached the enemy and plunged the blade into his body. With this blow, Didardaron and his army were destroyed. Jin Cheondo was glad. It was finally over. His abilities increased several times. He realized that he could now increase their levels by destroying monsters from the gap. Ixia reported that the time to summon the ship was running out. The ship beneath his feet began to dissolve, and Jin Cheondo fell into the water. The crew and the team rejoiced. They defeated the enemy and survived. While swimming in the water, Jin Cheondo noticed Didardaron's hat and caught it. The hat increased mana and perception. However, Jin knew that he couldn't walk around in such an extravagant headdress. Luckily, the hat had a shape-shifting effect. It could take the form of any accessory or headdress of his choice. Jin wondered what he would turn her into. Winry Makina, who was standing next to him, also asked what choice he would make. Jin Cheondo climbed on board. Winry Makina informed him that she had been watching him the whole time. She returned the lost pendant to him. Having praised Jin for his exploits, the keeper said that the pendant would still be useful to him in the future. Winry also brought a reward for summoning the black card. She explained that the reward was no different from the reward for the diamond card. But on the occasion of completing an extremely important task, she had prepared a special surprise for him. A wheel of fortune appeared in front of him. Jin Jongdo has a chance to gain new talent, if he's lucky. There was only one attempt. The result depended on the sector the arrow pointed to. Jin Jongdo noticed that the chance of getting a third-tier talent was low. He needed all the luck he could get. He summoned Ixia and Liu Shan, confident that with their help, his chances would increase. The guy spun the wheel and won the third-level leadership talent. Liu Shan immediately stated that this happened due to his luck. Deciding to test his new skill, Jin went to the stats window, but was surprised to notice that Liu Shan had the new talent. This made Jin Cheondo very angry. He didn't understand how he could steal his talent. The boy turned to Winry Makina for clarification. She calmly advised him to withdraw his identity and check again. When Jin followed her advice, he was convinced that he really did have the talent. Now both he and Liu Shan could use the third-level leadership talent. This was his additional reward. The combination of leadership and good luck was considered one of the best. In addition, Winry Makina strengthened his pendant by adding another stabilizer. Now those around him could only see his 3 talents. Meanwhile, a signal sounded on board about the imminent arrival at the port. The ship was approaching land. During the dungeon clearing, Kang Hai-shik demonstrated the results of his training by rising 20 levels. Jin Jongdo and Yoon So-yun were surprised by his success. Heshik dealt with the boars and called them for help when new enemies appeared. Jin Chongdo summoned Liu Shan, and together they activated the leadership skill, strengthening the team. The strength of the allies increased significantly, which allowed the mission to be successfully completed. Yoon Seo-yun proved her power by destroying the undead with one blow. After checking the levels, Jin Chondo discovered that Haishk had reached level 45 in just one day, thanks to the removal of the experience penalties. After that, he sent the guys to the boss, whom they defeated with joint efforts. Having reached the limit of his stats, Jin Chondo took advantage of the lottery to gain access to a special dungeon to upgrade his class. He found himself on a test for those who had reached the limit. The winner received access to the upper class. After receiving the crystal from Grandel's guide, Jin found himself on an island where a royal battle began. His talent game optimized his stats, and he immediately went to the high ground using the map. His first enemy was the wolf Tinya, whom Jin defeated. The she-wolf recognized his strength and offered an alliance. Jin agreed. Ixia confirmed Tinya's sincerity. They soon encountered the rest of the enemies, from whom Jin took the crystals. At night, they took refuge in a cave, where Tinya took on human form. In the morning, tracking their rivals, they came to the treasure shop. After eliminating the archers, Jin destroyed the shop so that no one would receive the reward. He then used the stones to cause an earthquake, hastening the destruction of the island. There were 8 participants remaining. In the center of the island, they met the Troll Lord, a powerful enemy. During the battle, the troll suppressed Jin's abilities, and Tinya took the blow. Enraged, Jin absorbed the crystal and gained the skill Supersonic Speed. He merged with the Green Dragon technique. The guy neutralized the troll thanks to his abilities. Later, he was restored using time manipulation. Then Jin activated the third-level game, tripled the stats, and defeated the troll, brutally beating him. The troll begged for mercy. Tinya praised Jin for his victory, but said that she could no longer fight. Jin did not accept her surrender and went on to eliminate the remaining rivals. With divine speed, he easily disarmed several participants. One surrendered, he intercepted the other. The third, an elf, became confused and surrendered after hearing about his personal hatred of elves. There was only one contestant left, Tinya. She thanked Jin for the opportunity to take second place. Fireworks marked his victory. He became the first participant from the Grandella family to win this challenge. Grandel directed him to a special door where Jin's rewards were waiting. But he warned he had to leave before 10 p.m., otherwise he would face trials. Upon entering, Jin didn't notice anything strange at first, but soon he felt the island's energy enveloping him. His stats began to rise rapidly. Now he understood why the time limit was necessary. Such power could not be left at the disposal of one person. Just as he was about to stop, the door slammed behind him. A monster emerged from the darkness. It was exactly 10 o'clock in the evening. Jin Jongdo was confused. His watch showed 10 minutes left. But he remembered. Winry Makina, who had the ability to stop time, had interfered with its flow. The clock was running late. Now he had to fight a creature that was clearly beyond his strength. Jin Chando activated his extra card and summoned the personality of Hercules. The first thing he did was scan the enemies. They were combat golems. The fastest way to defeat them was to destroy their cores. The problem was that the cores moved around inside the body at an incredible speed. Meanwhile, the golems attacked. The guy had no choice. He had to prove that even the golem's body could be destroyed. He activated his weapon and recreated a steel club. With a crushing blow, he severed the head of one of the golems. But the monsters continued to move even without a head. Then, Jin Chando decided to grind them into dust. The golems watched in shock as a weapon they had never seen before smashed their bodies. One by one, they fell. Eventually, Jin Chando destroyed all the golems and passed Delarf's test. At the end of the trials, his mana was fully restored. He was given a special reward that he could check after leaving the hall. His mana and strength were also increased by 1 point. Jin Chando was asked to take the second hall test. If he had refused and left the hall, he would not have been able to return. Jin was hesitant about taking the risk and decided to rely on the connecting lottery. If the diamond card came up, he would continue. Ixia tried to stop him because he was running out of mana. Jin Chando was confident that he would be lucky with 5 cards. He ended up getting a diamond card. With it, he activated Huang Hansheng's skills. He entered the second hall and found himself in a meadow. Wyverns and dragons flew through the air. He decided to use the sword Balmung against them. With its help, he quickly dealt with his opponents and thought that everything was too easy. Ixia noticed that the dragons' bodies were gathering in one place. A huge dragon, the boss, was formed from them. Jin Chando was confident that the sword would defeat him, but after striking, he realized that it could not cause any harm. The summoned individual suggested that the blade only reacts to dragon blood, which this creature does not have. Jin Chando agreed with this. The dragon got angry. Jin Chando had to take his bow and arrows and prepare for battle. With difficulty, he overcame the dragon. The guy realized that it would not be easy to continue the fight. He was wondering what to do next to have a chance of winning. Suddenly, the system notified him that he had reached 100 mana, for which he was entitled to a reward. A new opportunity opened up for him: General's Camp. He was also given a set of 5 great generals. Jin Chando realized that choosing 5 would not be easy. He double-booted and chose a combination of 2 heroes. One of them was Ma Dai. Liu Shan recognized him. It was his military commander. The system has notified that 2 simultaneously loaded characters are strongly linked to each other. After choosing the characters, Jin Chando launched the info gallery in hopes of getting a good map. He was dealt an emerald card with Machao Mengi's identity. He decided that this was enough to cope with the 3rd level. Then the 5 Great Generals camp system was activated, increasing his parameters and granting him a special advantage. Jin Chando found himself on the battlefield. He realized that the 3rd test was war. The guy played the role of a general commanding his army. The enemies were advancing, and Jin Chando rushed into battle. He destroyed his enemies one after another, causing admiration in the ranks of his soldiers. The persona he used in battle was Guan Yu Yongcheng, Liu Shan's uncle. Synchronization with allies has occurred. Their abilities have been strengthened, and the characters' features have been strengthened. The opponents noticed an unusual impulse coming from them. The commander of the enemy troops entered the battlefield, leading his army forward. With his power, he weakened the abilities of Jin's allies. Hearing his battle cry, Jin Chando prepared for battle. He felt the cruel energy emanating from the enemy and was ready to accept the challenge. Jin summoned a warhorse, saddled it, and rushed towards the enemy. In battle, he used the Green Dragon Halberd, which greatly increases stats in one-on-one combat. With its help, he delivered a powerful blow. There was a bright flash, and under the gaze of the inspired army, Jin Chando knocked down the enemy commander with 1 blow. This significantly raised the army's morale. He then used one of his abilities, deploying the octagonal golden castle formation. Communication with allies was successfully activated. Their level of subordination to commands has increased. The soldiers followed the order and formed a formation ready for defense. This significantly increased the effectiveness of the battle. The opponents did not understand why they stood in this particular position and what they were going to do. They went on the attack, but Jin Chando's army successfully repelled the attack, maintaining formation and defending the camp. The enemy commander was angry and declared that the winner would be determined in a battle of commanders. Jin Chando disagreed. In his opinion, this was not a duel but a war, and to win, one should use everything possible. The guy entered into a duel with the enemy commander and successfully blocked his attacks. The repeated defense raised the morale of his army. The soldiers were ready to give their lives for their general. This increased the tension. The enemy commander realized that in this mood, Jin's army could destroy them. He decided to eliminate Jin at any cost, gathered mana, and delivered a powerful blow. Jin responded by activating his strongest technique, Qinglong's decapitating strike. Their attacks collided, a flash occurred, and Jin Chando emerged victorious. The enemy admitted defeat, and Jin's army rejoiced. For successfully completing all the tests, he was assigned an increased reward, which could be obtained from the manager of the Wheel of Fortune. After the fight, Jin felt pain in his body. As he left, the general acknowledged his strength and expressed a desire to meet again. Liu Xian also wanted to leave, but Jin stopped him in order to use his luck in spinning the Wheel of Fortune. There were 3 narrow sectors on the wheel: God of War, Summon Horse, and Trust. Jin hoped to obtain the talent God of War, but luck fell on Summon Warhorse. He was a little disappointed since he could use this skill through Luibu as well. In addition, the system notified that the 5 Great Generals camp had been restored. Jin decided to study this skill in more detail. It turned out that the camp included 5 generals who served Liu Bei and Zhao Yun. When using the skill, information about the selected general is added to the player's profile, and connection points are spent instead of mana. These points accumulate as you develop your download skill. The higher the level of the downloaded personality, the more connection points you can get. Jin came to the conclusion that if the general's data is added to his profile, then his abilities are also transferred to the user. The gates opened and Grandel greeted him joyfully, believing that he was undergoing one of the tests. Jin reported that he had completed all the tasks. Grandel didn't believe that it was possible to go through everything in such a short time and not receive a reward, but Jin explained that he had to contact the manager for it. To the applause of the crowd, Jin walked inside, where the wolf Tinya was waiting for him. Other participants were also present at the ceremony, including the resurrected Troll King. Grandel explained that the testing site could restore time, which is why everyone survived, but the participants didn't need to know that. Jin climbed to the podium where he received the title Voice, which opened up a new category of stats for him and increased the chance of obtaining skills related to it. He also received rewards from the Holy Power Hall, the Summon skill, which summons an object with whom a promise was made, and Prophecy, which enhances this skill, allowing summoning even without it. After the ceremony was completed, Tinya promised Jin Chando that he would always be able to call on her for help. Returning from the dungeon, he immediately began training. Heshik informed him about the visitors. Jin was visited by Kang Hai-chun with a girl who was introduced as Kiki, the vice president of the Rescuer organization. She is a level 55 user and the daughter of the Emperor of Japan. Kiki came to convince Jin to join the Japanese expedition. He had previously refused this mission because he did not want to work in a foreign country. The girl shared information that a person dear to her was stuck in the dungeon. Kiki suggested using the dungeon scissors ability to open the dungeon and allow Jin to enter. The guy realized that if the girl couldn't handle it, then this dungeon was probably SSS level. The Jeanne d'Arc that needed to be rescued was the president of the SS class Salvatore and Saint. The situation became more complicated. Dungeons began to change all over the world. In Great Britain, Hong Kong, deserts. Jin realized that he couldn't stop all the threats on his own. He asked for time to think. Thinking about the future, he called Winry to get more information about what was happening. She confirmed most of the world will soon perish. Jin faces battle after battle, and he will have to be reborn into something more than human. Jin Chando asked Winry if there was another way to save the Earth. She replied that there was, if he did not interfere and chose a different path. But Jin couldn't come to terms with this. He was a resident of Earth, and his family was here. Winry, as a representative of the universe, did not share his affection, but promised to help. She activated the Infolotheria, and Jin received a red capsule. The capsule contained information. He must reveal the truth about the dungeon in Japan. This also opened the lock on the 37th planet of the universe and gave a significant boost to experience. Jin gained access to the path of the best god. Winry wished him luck. Meanwhile, in the Karma Guild, they were discussing the divergence that had begun. Although it seemed insignificant, they were losing their future. However, their leader stated that now the universe itself is helping them, and they just need to continue their missions. To test the technology of destroying the Earth, Bear and Butterfly were sent to Japan. The entrance to the dungeon was guarded by the military. Kiki thanked Jin for finally agreeing to help. Only 3 people could enter the dungeon: she, Jin, and Kang Hai-chun. Investigation revealed that the dungeon was of SSS difficulty class and that Captain Lazier and his legion of demons were inside. The best option was to clear the dungeon. The worst was to help the Saint escape. When Kang Hai-chun asked how the 4 of them would leave the dungeon, Kiki said that she would stay inside if necessary. Realizing that the dungeon was becoming more powerful, Jin used his power to widen the rift. The three of them went inside. However, Hee-chun was not there. Jin was confident that he would cope and get to the boss room on his own. Inside, they met riders. Powerful monsters. Jin attacked first, using his halberd to knock down one and destroy the second. However, reinforcements soon arrived and the number of opponents increased. Kiki suggested retreating, but Jin asked her to step aside. With one powerful blow, he knocked down several enemies at once. The monsters were amazed that he was able to cut through even their shields. Kiki watched him with admiration. She knew he was strong, but she didn't expect him to be that strong. Then they successfully reached the boss's room. The path turned out to be easier than expected, which seemed strange to the guy. However, suddenly an earthquake began, and the main enemy appeared, the captain of the 7th Legion of the Demon Army, Lazier. Jin immediately realized that the monster had a power between the diamond and black levels. Kiki noticed Joan of Arc inside, as well as another rift. Jin realized that he was the one making the SSS-level dungeon. He called on his warhorse and the she-wolf Tinya to help. She was the first to attack the monster, distracting it. At this time, Jin approached and struck. The enraged monster dealt with his horse. He didn't have time to notice how Jin plunged the weapon into his heart. The monster survived, but Jin's second blow proved fatal. After the victory, Jean approached Jean, and the first thing he did was remove her gag. Having been given the opportunity to speak, she immediately warned him of the danger. He managed to dodge the blades flying at him. The guy wasn't surprised that it was Kiki who launched them at him. Jin admitted that he had a lie detector that would go off every time Kiki told a lie. Ixia reported that all her words, including the promise to help the saint, were lies. The girl put on a mask and introduced herself as Butterfly, a member of the Karma Guild. She acknowledged Jin's strength, but was certain that the next monster would be beyond his power. Then Butterfly threw the blood crystal into the dungeon's rift. Here, Genie's luck kicked in. His luck was activated. A huge horde of monsters emerged from the rift and rushed towards him. But Jin Chando did not enter the battle. He declared this place holy, so that his enemies could not approach it. For this, he received significant bonuses. At that moment, Jin Chando used the power and talent of Joan of Arc, the heroine of the 100 Years' War. He, with a fluttering banner in his hands, emitted a blinding light that blinded the enemies. The butterfly, seeing this, decided to run through the rift, but Jin did not allow her to hide. She tried to attack him with her blades, but he blocked every one of them. The last blade should have dealt him a serious blow, but Jin's banner grabbed it. He ordered her to stay put until he dealt with the rest of the enemies. The guy entered into battle with the demons, who had already begun to come to their senses. Jana, despite her weakness, also tried to contribute to the victory. Jin Jungdo noticed how the spear perfectly complemented the girl's image. The Joan of Arc personality he was using was touched that someone was imitating her so well. When they were attacked by demons, the girl held on with all her might, while Jin was full of confidence. He knew that within range, enemies would be targeting him first. Using his Great Cross ability, he delivered a crushing blow. Light crosses flew in all directions, destroying the demons, causing them confusion and panic. Jin unleashed a holy light on his enemies, causing the demons to flee. He wondered where the personality of Joan of Arc that was being used had so much power. The guy assumed that she really could have been God's chosen one. Jean believed that this was the result of her faithfulness to the Lord. The light caused pain to the demons. Their heads split from the brightness, and they died. Jin enjoyed this battle. He thought everything was going perfectly. When he asked Jean if she agreed with him, she admitted that she tried her best, but was only able to kill one enemy. Suddenly, a thick red energy appeared, gathering in one place. Joan of Arc sensed the threat and warned Jin Chando of the danger. Jin did some research and found out that this was the arrival of the captain of the 1st Legion of the Demon Army, Khaled. The demonic energy emanating from him began to suppress Jana. It became difficult for her to breathe. She could not even stand. Jin realized that she had not yet met the enemy face to face, but was no longer in a position to fight. He looked up and realized that the sanctity of this place he had proclaimed was fading. His Joan of Arc personality had little time left. Realizing that only he and the weakened Jana had power left, he tried to scan her condition. This resulted in the activation of communication between their talents, and forced synchronization occurred. The system confirmed that the conditions were met. Her class was upgraded. Jin realized that without the stabilizing necklace, her body might not be able to withstand it. It was at this moment that the captain of the 1st Legion of the Demon Army, Khaled from the Hellish tribe, emerged from the rift. A holy shield was activated above Joan of Arc, causing healing. Jin Jongdo noted that thanks to her level 3 patience talent, her body was able to withstand the strain. This meant that he would be able to obtain a 3rd-tier talent from her in the future, if, of course, he survived the upcoming battle. Khaled praised those who managed to distort space and connect it to another dimension. Jin scanned the enemy and found that he was level 299, the same as Hercules. Moreover, Khaled had the skill Third Eye, which made him even more dangerous. Only the protection on Jin's neck blocked the psychological pressure coming from the enemy. Khaled wondered if Jin was really the protector of this world and had revoked the sanctity of the territory. He had a proposal for the guy. At the same time, Butterfly came to her senses and objected to Khaled's offer to Jin to make a deal. His job was to kill the guy. Annoyed by her interference, Khaled pulled out his sword and cut her pendant, which she used to control the monsters. The butterfly tried to run away, but he killed it in a second. Then he turned his attention back to Jin and offered him a contract to become the captain of the 7th Legion of the Demon Army. In exchange, he would receive a new title and the opportunity to change the course of Earth's history. Jin had his own option to refuse the deal. He broke the contract and entered the fight. Jin Dark activated the area of baptism of fire, and Jin was able to block Khaled's first blow. He attacked with lightning speed, and Jin barely had time to parry. Almost catching up with the demon, he saw him disappear. Khaled mocked Jin, believing his weapons were useless against him. The guy realized that Khaled was using the skill Inferno Cloak, which reduces all damage and blocks the attacks of the saints. Jin's confidence in the power of the Holy Force was shaken. Khaled soon landed a punch that sent the guy flying. But he was not going to give up. He attacked again, and this time he was able to get closer, striking. The blow passed through Khaled's magical protection. This surprised the demon. He did not expect Jin to be so close. The confrontation between the opponents continued. It was an exciting battle for Khaled, but Jin Jongdo was determined to finish the fight in one blow. He activated the special skill of the 5 Great Generals camp, using up one connection point. A new ability appeared in his stats, Zhang Fei's Diamond, which made him happy. At the same time, Joan of Arc gained a new surge of strength. Khaled, not understanding where Jin got such power from. Jin attacked him with a spear that combined elements of Celtic mythology and Chinese martial arts. His strike, enhanced by the tiger-crushing attack ability, became the greatest strike on Earth. With this attack, he struck Khaled. The guy knew he was acting on the edge. He only had 30 seconds, but he managed. A barrier created with holy power protected Jin, and Jin decided to use the remaining time to heal her. Suddenly, it turned out that Khaled was still alive. He grabbed Jin by the throat, acknowledged his strength, but felt that he still lacked power. Jin was hesitant about whether to activate the talent download again, since the difference in their levels was still too great. However, at this moment, Jana entered the battle. She unleashed holy fire on Khaled, ready to die if necessary. Taking advantage of the moment, Jin launched a Haladu strike, targeting his protective Inferno Cloak. The holy fire intensified its attack, and he noted that the enemy was beginning to weaken. The Wheel of Fortune has been activated, and the proclamation of a holy place sector has appeared. Holiness has returned to the dungeon, strengthening all light skills, purity, kindness, and holiness. Jana gained additional strength and directed it at the enemy. Khaled was amazed by this power. Before disappearing, he asked the enemy's name. He introduced himself, and Khaled promised to remember him. He was sure that they would meet again. Jin then delivered the finishing blow, destroying Khaled completely. He gained several experience levels for the victory. Jin Jongdo woke up in a hospital room with Kong Hai Chun by his side. The guy thanked him for his concern, but he replied that he hadn't done anything special. All the hard work had been done by Jin while he had just wandered around the dungeon. He admitted that he did not understand how Butterfly managed to fool him. When Jin asked about Japan's reaction, Kong Hai Chun replied that the country was upset. Butterfly was the only SS-class user. Her true identity was hidden, and the official version was that she died in a battle with a monster. Some radical groups have put forward conspiracy theories accusing them of killing the princess for the reward. But after the saints swore to the contrary, the controversy died down. Khan reported that Joan of Arc's condition was worse than Jean's due to the torture she had endured, but her body recovered. Moreover, after the test, she felt even stronger. After saying goodbye to Jin, He-chun left. Ixia confirmed that there was no lie in the boy's words, and Jin sighed with relief. He was afraid that he might be on the guild's side. Ixia noted that the enemy was especially dangerous this time. Jin promised himself that he would no longer believe that the enemy was dead until he received a level-up notification. The boy thought about how unexpectedly it turned out that he could enhance the talents of his allies through communication. However, Ixia reminded that not everyone could withstand such a load as Jana, because she had the talent of patience. Winry Makina suddenly appeared. She praised Jin and added the ability for him to turn talent synchronization on and off. She also explained that Khalid was of a higher rank than all previous enemies, but used an alternate body and received a penalty for entering a low-level universe. Jin realized with dismay that he was not fighting the original version of Khaled. For preventing the crisis, he received a reward, the removal of the experience block. After defeating Khaled, the mountain became connected to other dimensions and became a permanent rift. This could have brought new threats, but Winry set up a barrier, a black curtain. Monsters will not be able to leave the area, but users can enter it. The rift has now become a training ground, and its owner is Jin. Winry handed him the orb, the master key that allowed him to control this zone. He was delighted to receive such an award and asked the question, "Will the barrier be permanent?" Winry replied that he would disappear either by the decision of the universe or by the will of a being with a high level of magic. But there are no such beings on Earth. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister was informed about the appearance of a fault in the mountain. The monsters did not come out of it, but the alarm was sounded. He ordered that troops be sent and that the hunter who was clearing the dungeon be immediately delivered to him. Jin Chando gave a tour to the Japanese government, demonstrating control over the barrier that appeared after clearing the dungeon. He explained that only a few could enter, including himself, and that it was impossible to open additional exits from the inside. Although officials expressed concerns, Jin assured them that he would take responsibility for security. The deputy, despite the assurances, expressed doubts about transferring control to a foreigner. The man's driver, who called himself Bear, convinced him that the barrier should be operated by a Japanese citizen. The deputy liked this idea and decided to implement it as soon as possible. Later, Jin went to explore the rift, where he encountered orcs and other monsters. He successfully dealt with them, increasing his level and receiving valuable resources. Realizing that the rift represented an endless source of experience and trophies, he called upon Tinya to assist in further exploration. Tinya explained that the rift contains a spot core that must be destroyed to prevent the monsters from becoming stronger. She cloned herself, creating a pack of wolves that helped find the core. Tinya asked for permission to stay in this place, since the war in her world was over. In order not to frighten people, she turned into a small wolf cub, which made Jin very happy. Tinya watched Jin Chando's actions with interest. He tried to call a lucky card, which confused her, because their task was to clear out the enemies. Jin explained that in order to increase the chance of obtaining certain skills, he needs to be near a location or item associated with the desired character. Tinya tried to explain that luck is not as simple as it seems. Jin noticed that her inattention was interfering with the process and asked her to concentrate. Soon he felt something, but again he received the wrong card. A strange creature appeared in front of him. The guy suspected that it was because of Tinya and asked her not to do anything. The she-wolf noticed that his conversations with himself frightened her. The genie made another attempt to draw a card, praying for the universe's favor. This time, he managed to download the personality of Miyamoto Musashi, an outstanding Japanese warrior and swordmaster. Jin was very happy because now he had the opportunity to learn to be the best samurai in Japan. He asked Musashi for advice on how to become as strong. He replied that it took practice, emphasizing that some are born with talent, while others have to learn the hard way. Miyamoto offered Jin to take the sword to show him the technique. He noted that the boy was talented and quickly mastered the skills. The samurai asked Jin to call him when he was at the mountain again, promising to give him something to help. Miyamoto Musashi imparted to him the skill of dual swordsmanship. Jin was delighted and decided to return to the island. He received a notification that he had successfully collected 10 diamond-class characters. This opened up a new category, evolution. Now he could upload higher-level characters to the album while deleting lower-level characters. When 4 characters of the same class are deleted, the character evolves to the next one. Jin Chando thought about spending heroes for the sake of evolution. When special characters are collected in the album, the camp will be activated. If one of them is used as an evolution material, the camp effect will disappear. Jin decided not to take risks for now and focus on collecting as many characters as possible in order to eventually assemble a black class with the help of mana. Suddenly, the phone rang. Heshik reported that they had arrived in Japan. The friends agreed to meet at the place. Jin asked how things were going with the guild. Haishik replied that the registration was almost complete. Jin Jungdo would be the leader of the guild, which would consist of 4 people. The guy asked who the 4th person was. Jin promised to introduce them when everything was ready. It's time to return to the island. There, a deputy was already waiting for Gina. He informed him that people were worried about the current situation and asked to be taken behind the barrier, accompanied by a bodyguard, to personally verify the safety of the place. Jean didn't like this idea. Ixia sensed something was wrong and warned him. He realized that he was being deceived, but he agreed with the deputy and invited them inside. He, having examined the territory inside the barrier, was surprised. There were far fewer enemies than he expected. Jin Zhongdo noticed that they didn't have a camera. He asked how they planned to collect evidence. The deputy did not know what to answer, but his bodyguard intervened, saying that the dungeon camera was recording. Jean was surprised, because he knew that due to the influence of the magnetic field, no devices would work here. To smooth things over, he suggested to the Dupitat that he himself could tell people what he had seen. Jin then activated the truth room and asked him if he was related to the Karma Guild. The man was outraged by this question. He assured that he was in no way connected with this organization. Jin realized that the deputy was simply being used. When it was the bodyguard's turn, he couldn't say the right words. Jin noticed that the same thing was happening to the deputy as to the captain of the team, saying he. The guard, meanwhile, rushed at Jin, but he successfully repelled the attack. It turned out that the bodyguard wanted to stage an attack in order to eliminate the deputy and weaken Jin's influence. The man admitted that he had put a self-destruct mark on the deputy's body. Jin, using his abilities, recognized the mark and deactivated it. The guy struck the enemy, promising to find and destroy all members of their guild. The man was scared. He didn't have the strength to defeat Jin Chando. With the last of his strength, he rushed at the guy, intending to take his life. The wolf Tinya stopped him. The guild realized that their agent had been exposed and eliminated. They discussed how to remove the barrier, since Butterfly was dead and there was no one left who could control the savior. The guild leader interrupted their thoughts. He reminded that the most important thing was to eliminate the guy, since all the guild's recent failures were connected with him. There was a prophecy that one day the greatest enemy of karma would appear, a man who would bring destruction upon them all. They began to suspect that Jin Chando was the enemy. Realizing that they could not deal with him on their own, the leader ordered that surveillance of him be stopped. Until their owner returns, they must hide so that they cannot be found. The clearing of the rift was going well, and the team members honed their skills. Heshik was confident that by killing a few more monsters, he would increase his level. However, Jin explained to him that it was not that simple. Heshik noted that now he does not need to contact the Awakener to find out his level. Meanwhile, Tinya asked Jin Zhongdo to help her with Seoyun. She, being a strong she-wolf, felt discomfort from the girl's behavior. However, Seoyun treated her to a treat, and while Tinya enjoyed the treat, she watched her with affection. Jin Chando was glad to see that they had found common ground. Suddenly, he received a notification that he had reached level 99. To further increase, he needed to perform a special feat. The guy ordered the team to stay put, and he himself went to explore the surroundings under the pretext of searching for monsters, but in fact intending to use the infilore. The inventory gave him a green capsule with instructions. Turn your head to the left. After doing so, he saw Winry Makina, who admitted that she was looking for a place to have a private conversation. Jin Chando asked Winry to transport him to another world to undergo a special test. Winry explained that the test would take place on Earth. It would involve defeating one of the great yokai. Jin Chando didn't know what yokai were. Winry explained that unlike monsters from other worlds, yokai are creatures born on Earth. Most of them disappeared with the development of science, but some survived. They coexist peacefully with humans, but there are those who are too strong and can only be sealed. Jin Chando's mission is to defeat one such yokai whose seal has recently weakened. Winry recommended that he fight this particular yokai. She suggested leaving the key to the mountain with the people who remained, and warned that this yokai was no weaker than Khaled, urging him to be careful. Meanwhile, in the mountains, people tried to stop the creature that was trying to escape. They discovered that the seal had been weakened by the intruder who killed the guards. The door couldn't withstand the pressure. Ryu Seirien asked the lady about the monster's origin, to which she replied that it was Pulgasari, a yokai with the face of an elephant and the body of a hippopotamus, known as the Metal Eater. The lady explained that 1,000 years ago, their ancestors used the power of the Korean peninsula to create a seal and seal Pulgasari in the eastern Korean mountains. However, the sealed Pulgasari drew energy from the seal and grew, becoming a powerful yokai. The men noticed that the amulets were gone, and if things continued like this, the seal would disappear completely in a day or two. Ryu Serin suggested calling in troops, but the lady refused, fearing great casualties. When an ancient monster that has been starving for 1,000 years is released, it will lead to disaster. The lady felt the approach of a dear guest at the foot of the mountain. She was sure that he was the one who would help resolve the situation. Jin Chando stood at the foot of the mountain, contemplating the power of the great yokai he would have to fight. The lady warned him to be careful. They did not know what kind of animal the Pulgasari had turned into. She gave him an amulet to seal the beast for 100 years if anything went wrong. Jin Chando promised not to let us down. Entering inside, he met a huge beast. Using the black card, the boy downloaded the identity of Lancelot Dulac and prepared for battle. The monster destroyed everything around it. Without a second's hesitation, Jin Chando rushed to attack. Lancelot advised him to climb onto the monster's back. He jumped nimbly, but his blows could not penetrate the beast's tough skin. Next, Jin Chando used the sword Azure, which ignored the enemy's defense. But even it did little damage. Remembering that the beast was vulnerable to fire, the boy used the flame crystal and tried to hit the Pulsagari. The beast threw him off. He was agile for his size. Pulsagari threw rocks around, trying to knock his opponent off his feet. Lancelot regretted that they did not have containment or fire magic. Then Jin Changdo used the dual summon skill and summoned Liu Shan, who had the evolution skill Lucky Credit. Liu Shan passed on his luck to him, which was worth the loss of status points. Thanks to this, Jin Chando drew a black card of a lucky hero, the wizard Merlin. Merlin and Lancelot were linked characters, and the guy received bonuses for using them. The wizard cast an ancient confusion spell on the monster, immobilizing it. After that, Jin Chando delivered a powerful blow. Next, Merlin used the heavenly flame spell. The monster caught fire. Jin Chando finished the fight with a blow from Clarence's sword and defeated the monster. Its level has increased several times. The girls were worried about Jin Chando, but he soon walked out the door. The lady was delighted, thinking that Pulgasari was sealed again for 100 years. However, Jin Chando revealed that he had killed him. He was holding the mythical essence of the monster in his hands. The lady was surprised that he was able to get it. There was no master on Earth who could work on it. Then Jin Chando remembered the dwarves. When asked about other great yokai, the lady mentioned one in Japan, the snake Orochi. Jin Changdo marked her as the next target for armor creation. For the completed task, he was awarded the heart of a fire goblin, previously used to suppress Pulgasari. Jin Changdo expressed his gratitude for the award. Left alone, he saw 2 wheels of fortune. On the first rotation, Jin Changdo gained the skill Battlefield Analysis, which upset Liu Shan. On the second try, the skill Beauty Level 2 came out, which surprised both of them this time. Jin Chando was in the best workshop for making things. There, Winry Makina visited him, noticing that he had become stronger. It was the first time she had been proud of someone since she had developed her own ego. As a reward, she gave him white tickets, with which he can summon gods, and also unlocked an extra ticket, which gives a chance to summon unique characters. When asked what was special about them, Winry advised me to play and find out. Jin Changdo doubted that he would be lucky due to the low odds, but he still decided to go for it. By combining the Giza and Michael cards, he did not get the desired result. Calming himself through meditation, he tried again and drew a white card, a gnome named Dengu. He saw that the essence was still alive and said that he was able to process it because he was a gnome of harmony. He suggested that Jean take up the hammer and get to work. He managed to create the mythical flame armor. It was unfinished, as additional materials were required. With Tinya's help, he discovered a cave with a similar artifact. By breaking the seals, he released the giant snake Orochi. Jin Changdo was amazed by its gigantic size. He gripped the weapon tightly in his hands and prepared for a difficult battle. Orochi offered the boy money and wealth if he agreed to serve her, but he refused. Jin Chando only wanted her crystal. The enraged snake tried to grab him. He responded with the Moon River Sword technique. Surprised by his skills, Orochi attempted to poison him, but Jin Chando was immune to the poison. The enraged snake intensified its attack, and the boy tried to restrain it with chains created using Joseon technology. However, they were unable to contain her. Using the Dragon Slayer sword, he stabbed the snake. However, this only made matters worse. Orochi split up. The blows had no effect and the snake grew stronger. With the help of Liu Shan's luck, Jin Chando summoned Abeno Sorcerer. He brought the trees to life to hold back the enemy. A flaming rain fell from the sky, engulfing the battlefield in flames. Tongues of flame wrapped around the snake's body, causing it to writhe furiously in pain. The spellcaster noted that this would not hold Orochi back for long. While the snake was chained, Jin Chando heard a call that drew him to the statue of Suzuno. It contained a sword that could seal Orochi forever. The magic caster suggested using the sword, but Jin Chando decided that he would find another use for it. Orochi fought fiercely against the living trees, trying to find a human among them. The she-wolf noted with alarm that she would not last long if the situation did not change. At that moment, Jin Chando appeared. He called out loudly to the snake, which greatly surprised her. Orochi did not expect that the guy would dare to return. Using the double summoning technique of pulling out fate, he summoned Suzanu's personality. Orochi, upon seeing him, became enraged and tried to attack, but the snake caster restrained the snake with the grip spell. Jin Chando drew his sword and struck, but it was useless. Orochi reported that over 1,000 years she had developed an immunity to Susanu's power. Then Jin Chando asked Susanoo to trust him and pass on his power. Susanoo agreed. As Orochi charged again, Jin Chando activated his compatibility ignoring skill and delivered a crushing blow, cutting off all of the snake's heads at once. Thanks to this skill, Orochi's resistance was completely neutralized. The dying snake could not believe that a man could cause her such harm. Jin Chando's victory was complete, and his level increased significantly. The event was observed by reporters from a helicopter, and news of Jin Chando's victory instantly spread throughout the world. The people rejoiced, celebrating the defeat of the monster that caused the disaster at the mountain. Crowds took to the streets chanting the hero's name. The presenter stated that they had witnessed the birth of the world's first SSS-class hunter. Reporters tried to interview him, but Jin Jongdo refused to communicate. It's time to return to Korea. Jin Chando left the boys and went to explore the surrounding area. He did not have the opportunity to examine Orochi's cave properly. During the examination, Ixia felt the remnants of magical energy. They found a chest containing an artifact that granted the skill 5 Rings, a first-class ability that allows attacks to be imbued with the powers of water, wind, earth, and fire. Then Jin Chando remembered why Musashi had asked to be informed if he decided to go to the mountain. After gathering everything he needed, he noticed that Ixia looked worried and asked what was wrong. She replied that she felt sick because Orochi had not yet been fully digested. Jin Chando realized that upon his return, he would have to take on another important task, strengthening the equipment, because he already had all the necessary materials. The guy was examining the collected artifacts. Ixia joked that Orochi's tail could be eaten, but Jin considered it valuable. According to legend, there was a treasure hidden inside. After cutting off the tail, he discovered the divine sword Orochi, capable of destroying even gods. However, he doubted whether he needed another sword, since he already had the King of Arms. At that moment, the dungeon of the gnomes opened, and Jin went inside. He was met by a disgruntled dwarf, Giz. The other gnomes greeted Jin, treated him to beer, and asked him about the purpose of his visit. He showed them ancient artifacts, and they recognized in them the power of divine origin. Before starting work, the gnomes offered Genie a test, a game. By activating his 3rd-level talent, he destroyed all his opponents in a matter of seconds. Admitting defeat, the dwarves agreed to fulfill his request and set about improving the King of Weapons. Jin also gave them his armor. One of the dwarves felt like he had encountered this armor before, as if he had created it himself. Jin confirmed the guess. It really was his work, but from another reality. The amazed dwarves confessed that they wanted Jin Chando to summon them to the real universe. They couldn't give the reason because of Jis, but they promised a worthy reward for it. Jin Chando warned them that it would require a huge amount of mana and was unsure of the outcome. In response, the dwarves immediately brought elven tears and an elixir of luck. They were ready for anything. Jin agreed to try. The guy activated the lottery. There he discovered the observer mode, which he had not known about before. To add excitement, he turned it on. The gnomes watched the process with anticipation, but the first attempt was unsuccessful. A quarrel broke out between the gnomes. Luck had failed them. Giza asked if there was another way to send them to the true universe. Jin admitted that there was a skill that would instantly increase his luck, but using it would cost him his status. However, the dwarves insisted. They brought a rare elixir that increased status in one use. The dwarves were hesitant about making such a sacrifice, but Jin inspired them with his example, reminding them how close they were to their goal. Amidst their screams, he drank the elixir and was given 3 more tries. The first and second cards were black. The last one remained. Having pulled himself together, Jin declared that he was lucky and received a white card. The goddess of minerals, Lilim Bright, has appeared. The gnomes immediately recognized her and fell to their knees, asking for forgiveness for the mistakes they had made. She reminded them that they must decide their own destiny and not cheat by trying to deceive the universe. In gratitude for his efforts, Gisi allowed Jin to select several items from the offering room. There he found another bottle of elven tears. Guys approached and offered to drink it and try his luck one last time. The next day, Jin and his friends went to the association with the goal of creating their own guild. His former boss, Choi Choi-Leun, was in charge of the paperwork. Jin put him in charge of managing the guild. The guy remembered that he hadn't thought about the most important thing: the name of their organization. So-Yun suggested her option, SSS Guild. Everyone liked her idea. To ensure that there were no secrets between them, Jin decided to tell his friends about his abilities. But friends already guessed something like that. The guy also told them about an infulfilled that provided information about the future. Wanting to demonstrate to his friends the principle of its operation, he activated it and received a white capsule for the first time. The information stated that the disintegration of the Earth's crust was accelerating. The real universe was ready to provide important information for the Earth, which had chosen a new path. Jin Jongdo learned that the third disintegration would begin in 10 days. The exact coordinates of the location were also provided. 10 days passed. Jin stood at the entrance to the dungeon. He was wearing the flame armor of immortality and holding the king of weapons. Full of determination, he headed inside. Jin Jongdo was in the sky. There were countless enemies below him. Landing on his feet, he set about destroying them. Realizing that the battle would be difficult, since the dungeon was SSS rank, he decided not to waste his energy on small opponents and focus on the boss. He activated the infulfilled by choosing a random progression and received 3 diamond cards. As a reward, he was allowed to choose a top-level personality. Jin chose Richard I the Lionheart. The enemy army did not have time to understand what was happening, as he burst into battle with terrifying power. Soon a boss appeared on the battlefield. Ramon, the temporary commander of the 5th Corps of the Demon Army. He asked if Jin Chando was the guardian of this universe. Then he offered to join their army of demons. Jin refused, promising to defeat him and prove his superiority. However, Ramon refused the duel, declaring that he had come not for the fight, but for the war, and did not intend to take risks as commander-in-chief. Instead, he gave the order to kill Jin Chando. He, without hesitation, activated the Crusader summoning skill and turned the battlefield into a sanctuary. The Crusaders entered into battle with the demons. Following them, Jin saddled his war horse and rushed into the very heart of the battle. Jin Chando cut a path through the enemies, leading the army. While fighting on horseback, he used Orochi poison against his enemies. The battle was observed by Ramon, who tried to stop Jin with a bow, but his attempt was unsuccessful. Without slowing down, Jin jumped over the protective shields and attacked Ramon. A fierce battle ensued. Ramon, using twin blades, was confident in his weapon's ability to transform. In response, Jin activated the skill Dual Swords, greatly increasing the speed of his attacks. He then used the skill 5 Rings, adding fiery power to his attacks. Ramon was shot down. Enraged, he counterattacked using a long sword. During the battle, the guy used the Sanctuary skill. His light weakened Ramon. Jin Chando realized it was time to end the fight. He changed weapons and dealt the demon a crushing blow, knocking the sword out of his hands. Then, without a second's delay, Jin Chando threw a spear at him. Ramon tried to escape, but the spear wounded him. However, the level-up window did not appear, meaning the battle was not over. Ramon stood up, activating his essence. His level reached a staggering level. Recognizing that victory was Jin's due to him having to use the sealed power, he ordered his army to retreat and promised to return during the next invasion. Jin struck at the retreating army, forcing the demon to become distracted. Ignoring the rules of the universe led to the destruction of Ramon's body. At the insistence of the troop commander, he headed towards the gate, but Jin still managed to wound him. Ramon disappeared, but Ixia saved the coordinates and promised that they could open the gate later. Jin Chando promised to go after the demons himself when the time came. The invasion was stopped. After completing the quest, Jin Chando returned from the dungeon and discovered that 5 days had passed since his absence. The team was concerned about his absence. He assured his friends that he was fine. From Cholyun, the guy learns about the appearance of a new dungeon, where monsters act in a coordinated manner and resemble demons in appearance. He also reported a spot in England, but local authorities are refusing their help. At home, Gina is visited by Winry Makina. He asks her questions about the differences between the real universe and its copy. Winry explains to him that the copy universe has a lower mana concentration, which affects the creature's strength and erosion rate. She also mentions a creature named Vile that caused the initial erosion, but details about it are scarce. Winry suggests to Jin that instead of waiting, they attack the demon world while they are weakened. He agrees and discusses with her the possibility of combining unused skills or returning them to get tickets. Winry hints to him that returning the skills could yield valuable tickets, especially if used now. Jin decides to take advantage of this opportunity. The next day, in an elevated mood, Jin Chando asked Ixia to open a portal to the demon world. After entering the portal, the guy found himself in prison. With the help of the info gallery, he learned about a new task, to free the settlement of Scale from demons. Suddenly, rebels burst into the prison. Jin Chando, having destroyed the Great, joined their battle. He promised to help them free of charge, and the rebels accepted him as a hero. During the battle with the demons, Jin Jongdo displayed outstanding combat skills, destroying enemies with his spear and sword. People were amazed by the guy's strength. They acknowledged that with his help, the liberation of their settlement became possible. Jin found it strange that the prison security was so lax. The rebels said they had freed the prisoners and were heading to the hideout on rhinos. They were planning a celebration in honor of the new warrior. However, they did not notice that a bug had been attached to them, with the help of which the demons calculated their location. The commander-in-chief of the army immediately ordered troops to be sent and destroy them all. The refuge, located in a huge canyon, remained unnoticed by demons for a long time. The group leader informed the elder about the successful release of the hostages. He criticized his actions, believing that humiliating the demons could lead to disaster. At that moment, a messenger came running with news of the approaching enemy army. The elder ordered the evacuation of women and children. Jin Qiando realized that the prison was a trap. He suggested to the elder that he wait with the evacuation, intending to deal with the situation himself. Activating the race skill, he charged into the heart of the army on his warhorse. The demon's commander was Sinal, who decided that Jin was just a distraction. He ordered the army to cut off the boy's head. Jin Jongdo used his trump card, the Persona Summoning card. Having received the abilities, he defeated the approaching enemies. This was possible thanks to the personality of the great general Zhang Liao and the use of the Azure Dragon technique. Jin Chando destroyed the commander who had previously been promised Ramon's place with one swing. The remaining demons rushed into battle, but Jin easily repelled the attacks and destroyed them like moths flying into a flame. He ended the battle with a powerful 7-star divine attack, striking at the center of the enemy army. After defeating the demons, Jin Chando gained the ability to use the Wheel of Fortune. With Liu Shan's help, he won the sword skill upgrade. This was the first combat skill he had obtained. Later, Jin Chando gathered the village leaders. Using a map of the dungeons, he suggested that they join forces with other resistance groups. He didn't ask them to fight the demons. They just needed to distract the enemy. 2 days later, the rebels approached the city of Argonin. When the gates opened, a horde of demons burst out. The men began to retreat, and Jin Chando on his horse attacked the demons, dealing them crushing blows. While the commander was ordering the gates to be closed, the boy destroyed the fortress wall and broke inside. The frightened demons fled. He gave the order to eliminate the remaining enemies and prepare for the next stage of the plan. The demons mobilized all their troops and approached Scale. They were commanded by Kelsad. He ordered the army to destroy every single enemy, but there was no one inside. The demons did not understand what was happening. Kelsad was informed that their capital was occupied by the enemy. With the help of just one man, they managed to capture the city. Kelsad intended to return to the capital and personally destroy the guy who was to blame for everything. Jin Chando continued to destroy his enemies. He managed to get close to the castle. When he entered, he saw that it was empty. But it was not so. Ramon came out to meet him. Clutching his sword tightly, he rushed at the guy. An entity that resembled an angel appeared near Ramon. Jin Chando's defense detected brainwashing magic emanating from the creature. Ramon didn't understand what an angel was doing in the demon world. It was a violation of the agreement. The angel explained that Ramon had also previously broken the agreement and invaded Earth. Jin Chando was offered help and support from heaven. Ramon accused the angel of lying, which brought trouble upon himself. Seeing this, the boy refused any help coming from the heavenly beings. The angel asked him to rejoice, because the place they had chosen for salvation was Earth. On the other hand, Ramon recruited him to join the Legion of Demons. The guy had a choice between heaven and hell. But Jin Chando had his own plans. This answer did not satisfy anyone. Both the angel and the demon unleashed their anger on the guy. Jin Chando withstood their blows. He, using the identity of the powerful Japanese warrior Xiang Yu, destroyed the demon fortress, causing panic among the enemies. For destroying the fortifications, he received experience points. A revelation of identity occurred. In front of Jin Chando was Kelsad. The guy activated the self-confidence talent, allowing his loaded character to make his own decisions. He held back the enemy's attack and then launched a powerful counterattack of his own using the chain and the enemy identification skill. The fight devolved into an exchange of blows to the death, with Xiang Yu eventually crushing Kelsad with a devastating force. For the victory, Jin Chando received experience points. He noticed that an angel was watching him, his next target. Seeing that Kelsad had fallen, the demons were determined not to let Jin Chando leave alive. But the boy knew that he didn't need to fight, since Xiang Yu's time was running out. He activated the Black Horse skill and raced away. No one had the power to stop him at that moment. An army of angels stood in the way of the demons, allowing Jin Chando to leave without hindrance. The boy strengthened the angel's attack by using the skill Sanctuary Reveal. Jin Chando returned to the camp. He brought the good news that Kelsad was dead, but the battle was not over yet. He had to destroy the regiment of demons that were rushing to help Kelsad. Jin Chando took off his necklace and began to force download the talents. Demon Commander Fontanen ordered his army to return to the capital immediately. One of the demons warned of a possible ambush in a narrow canyon ahead, but there was no time to go around. Every minute counted. Suddenly, the army noticed a pursuer, a lone horseman rushing after them. The demons felt a powerful energy coming from his sword. Jin Chando, holding the legendary sword Excalibur, unleashes the force of its might on his enemies. The power of the sword was so great that it destroyed the canyon. Fontanen ordered a retreat before Jin Chando approached again. The demons tried to stop him with arrows, but he skillfully deflected them, continuing to strike with his sword. Demonstrating second-level swordsmanship, Jin Chando easily dispatched his enemies. His body and muscles were transformed, giving him even greater strength. The demons, realizing that they had only one enemy in front of them, decided to attack him with their entire army. But Jin Chando used Clarent, dealing a crushing blow to the enemy. Fontanen received an urgent message from Ramon. Kelsad was killed. They were ordered to retreat immediately. Surprised by this decision, Fontanen ordered the retreat gates to be opened. Part of the demon army rushed towards them in panic, trying to save themselves. Although the demons managed to escape, they were completely driven out of scale. Under the rubble, people managed to find Her Majesty. The entrance to the dungeon was blocked by a spell that could be unlocked by a legendary wizard. Jin Chando went inside and lifted the spell. He opened the entrance to the dungeon. The girl asked to be left alone with the hero who saved their lives. As a reward, she gave him the national treasure of Skyla. Their legend said that one day a savior would appear from heaven and drive out all evil. According to the legend, the object kept in the box had to be given to him. Jin Zhangdo opened it and saw inside a ball that his powers could not detect. It was much higher than the mythical object. Together with Ixia, they went home. There was a coordinate intervention. He and Ixia ended up in Great Britain. They were surrounded by a group of hunters. They recognized the guy and were happy to get an autograph from the SSS-class hunter. Jin explained to them that he ended up in this place after completing the dungeon. The hunters took this as a sign from above, believing that his appearance here was not accidental. They reported that Jesus was now resurrected and was on British soil. The hunters said they had witnessed a miracle. Jesus had secluded himself to recreate the Holy Grail. Possession of the Grail would allow him to protect humanity from monsters. Ixia felt a malicious energy coming from the blood-related item. Jean asked if St. Joan of Arc was here. He was told that she had arrived in the UK but then disappeared. Jin was taken to rest, where he changed his clothes and called Winry Makina. He told her that he had some questions. Winry agreed to answer for a fee of 20,000 points. The boy asked me to tell him about the Holy Grail. Winry explained that the Grail was a device that allowed beings from the upper universe to enter the lower universe with impunity. It is created by mixing half the blood of a person from heaven and half the blood of a person from the universe that heaven is trying to invade. This fusion requires the two beings to be of similar nature and their mana to be superior. Jin realized that Joan of Arc was perfect for this purpose, and her disappearance was no accident. He didn't know how to find the saint, but Winry hinted at using a skill enhancement potion. As she parted, she wished Jean good luck. Meanwhile, Joan of Arc was fleeing from the men who were pursuing her. One of them tried to hit her, but she activated the protective dome in time. Jean was confused. She did not understand why the Knights of the Round Table were attacking her. Suddenly, a man appeared and apologized for their rudeness. Jean recognized the Lord in him. He said that with her help, they can save the earth. To do this, they need her heart to stop the devil. The knights were outraged. They thought that only a little blood was required. In prayer, Jean called upon Jin Chando for help. Her prayer was answered. The boy, having strengthened his summoning skill, came to help. He explained to the girl that he felt her calling and was able to quickly find her. The being who introduced himself as Jesus turned out to be an imposter, the earthly angel Lowell. Due to the dimensional penalty, he and his minions were unable to use defensive skills, giving Jin a chance to win. Lowell attacked the guy. Jean tried to protect them with her holy shield, but to no avail. Jin activated the Luck Vessel artifact and downloaded Liu Shan's identity, hoping to obtain a powerful card. Lyle attacked again, but the boy used the legendary magic of the cross shield. He used the identity of Galahad, a knight of the Round Table whose chastity and purity made him a worthy recipient of the Holy Grail. With a shield in one hand and a sword in the other, Jin threw Lowell back. After that, he destroyed his minions. Lawel, realizing Jin's power, ordered the knights to kill him. The knights, not wanting to harm the saint, suggested that Jin retreat. The guy refused and moved them out of the way. One of the angels was still alive and asked Lawel for healing, but he destroyed him. Jin Jongdo was shocked to see an angel destroy his own minion. This cruel act on Lawel's part allowed him to awaken his true power and take on another form. However, the violent awakening of the holy blood led to his body being destroyed. When the soldiers tried to approach Lawel, he tried to destroy them. However, Jin Chondo used his shield in time to protect them. The knights who had previously pointed their swords at him did not understand why he was saving their lives. Unlike monsters, Jin Chondo believed in the value of life and was willing to protect it. Lawel's anger only grew stronger. He believed that Jin Chondo had ruined all his plans, and he understood that such a strong opponent could not be left alive. The angel unleashed all of its power on him, and Jin Jongdo could barely contain it. The power was too much for him. The boy only had a few defensive spells left. He doubted he could hold out until Lawel's body was destroyed. At this point, Galahad advised him to throw the shield at Lawel. Jin took the advice and kicked the shield towards his opponent with all his might. Lawel was thrown far back. Jin Chondo, without wasting any time, went after him. The boy warned the knights that if they touched the saint with a finger, he would deal with them. Lawel was shocked by the force of the blow. He acknowledged the fact that Jin Chondo was a strong opponent. The angel decided to use his magic. He declared that the victory would be his if he could withstand his next blow. However, Jin Chondo doubted whether he could cope without a shield. However, he decided to strike first. Ixia warned the boy that Lawel does not use offensive magic. He uses alteration magic, but it was too late. Lawel used his magic and disappeared, leaving Jin Chondo with nothing. Using his magic, the angel moved to another location. He was going to look for another saint and complete the creation of the grail. Lawel was informed that his role was now over. He turned around, trying to understand who said these words. Lawel was destroyed in one blow. The woman who did this left no trace. Lawel did not understand why he was punished in this way. Jean did not consider the knights to be guilty of what had happened. She knew that Arthur had no choice. His wife was seriously ill, and Jesus promised to heal her. The saint promised to help him and do everything possible to heal his wife. The man was grateful to her for her kindness. Jin Jongdo was worried about Seo Yun. Being a saint, she could be Lawel's next target. The girl assured him that she was fine. After Seo Yun's call, Jin Chondo opened the dungeon to deliver the new artifacts to the dwarves. He showed them a rare item, a reward for a raid into the demon world. The gnomes explained that this was a unique opportunity and asked to leave it to them, promising to do something special. When asked about the timing, they replied that he could return at any time. Soon, Jin Chondo received a guaranteed X-class ticket, which made him interested in characters of this class. He felt a surge of energy. This was his reward, the grant of level 3. The next day, he and Jean went to Arthur's wife. Arthur was very grateful to them for their help. At the hospital, Jana tried unsuccessfully to heal the woman. Jin scanned it and found Lawel's curse on it. He offered to help, having the skill Curse Cleansing. The guy ordered to bring him all the potions that restore mana, intending to free the woman from pain in the near future. Jin Chondo activated his skill. Healing required a lot of effort. He hoped that he could cope with Galahad's skill, but the curse did not want to let the girl go. It penetrated deeper and deeper into her and threatened to kill her. Joan of Arc came to his aid. By joining forces, they lifted the curse from the girl. She woke up, and Arthur, barely containing his emotions, hugged his wife. Jin received a reward. The effect of tracking the one who cast the curse was activated. He saw that the Earth Angel Leoel, a level 300 monster, was dead. The unknown variable made him anxious. Arthur's wife apologized for her husband's behavior. She admitted that she needed to close the dungeon spot. The girl asked Jin for help. He had his own interests in this place, and he agreed to help her. Arthur was worried about his wife's condition, but she assured him that she felt fine. Together, they headed towards the dungeon. On the spot, Jin explained to his companions. In order to close the spot, it was necessary to defeat its guardian. It turned out to be Behemoth, a nightmare monster that had previously killed many people. Arthur asked Genie to buy him time so he could fight the monster, but Jin intended to kill the monster himself. He borrowed the king's scabbard from the boy and ran a lottery, hoping to summon the identity of Arthur Pendragon. But instead of him, a girl unknown to him appeared. Arthur tried to take control of the situation and attacked Behemoth first. This only made the monster even more angry. Seeing that the monster could not be dealt with, he ordered his friends to retreat. Jin Chondo took the initiative and attacked Behemoth with a fire spell. The hippopotamus was defeated. The team went underground. They knew that to close the spot, They had to clear the dungeon. The monster they encountered was too weak, so the boss was still alive. The real enemy was hiding behind the gates of the Class 3S lair, emitting mana that opened a portal for alien creatures. The group moved deeper, where they were met by a huge creature, consumed by rage. It attacked Arthur first. Jin Chondo used Excalibur to strike, but it wasn't enough. To strengthen the attack, Jin activated Dual Boot and summoned Liu Xian. He used the skill Pulling Fate, and Arthur Pendragon appeared on the battlefield. The kinship between the personalities increased the synergy to the 3rd level, but due to the enmity between them, the efficiency immediately dropped. Seeing that the situation was dangerous, the characters still agreed to cooperate. Arthur's sister strengthened the weapon in the boy's hands, after which Jin attacked the monster. With a combined blow, they knocked him down. The system reported that Jin had uploaded 10 black characters. For this, he received the ability Transcendence, the ability under certain conditions to transfer the downloaded character into the real world. Liu Shan proposed a plan. Use the Transcendence skill when he and Jin reached the 10th level of enhancement. They decided to start strengthening without using the skill Borrowing Luck. Jin launched the linking lottery. The first card that came out was a simple one. A girl named Joseon appeared in front of them, a character with no skills but with the talent Beauty Level 3. Jin did not immediately understand its usefulness. Although he noted its exceptional appearance, he judged that it would be more beneficial to give Joseon's physical body rather than Liu Shan's, and use her talent to enhance the beauty level of other characters, such as Seo Yun. This idea gave him the idea of using a stabilizing necklace to prevent bodies from collapsing. Meanwhile, Arthur called him to the huge mana stone under the boss's body. The stone belonged to Jin as the winner, and the guild offered to help transport it. However, Jin did not attach much value to the stone, since he had better artifacts. For winning and leveling up one of the black characters, he received a guaranteed white ticket as a reward. The spot was closed, but some of the monsters were still outside. The squad began to survey the surrounding area. Ixia has discovered a previously hidden mana flow. Following him, they found a dungeon, which soon began to disappear. Jin was upset, fearing that he had lost any clues about the Skyworld, but Ixia managed to memorize its coordinates. Now they could open the gates and try to enter the heavenly world. But this path was unstable. Jin believed that the Celestials were behind what was happening, and decided that it was better to strike first. He intended to destroy everything in their world. As a reward for his assistance, Arthur brought Jin Chondo to the guild's vault. The guy could choose his reward from the valuable trophies they had collected over the years. There he discovered a bracelet with which Ixia felt a connection. Ixia absorbed it, gaining the ability to create dimensional gates and access to coordinates. Jin Jongdo decided to go with her and collect all the pieces of her memories. Arthur wasn't too upset by the disappearance of the bracelet. He suggested that Jin Chondo go to the SS-class late dungeon he had discovered, the Dullahan Tomb. The tomb was overrun with monsters, and Jin was worried about the people who went with them. The saint used her blessing against the undead, which gave them an advantage in battle. By bringing down her cross on the enemies, she destroyed their numbers. Next, Jin used the holy chain as a weapon. Meanwhile, Jin and Liu Shan strengthened the team's abilities. With their combined efforts, they defeated the boss of the unholy, Lord Dullahan. Then the monster mutated. It stole Arthur's abilities and came back to life. Jin Chondo saved the boy, but he himself fell into the clutches of the monster. Using the forced transport skill, he took the monster with him and destroyed it. The movement took place to a place previously unknown to him. A joyful Ixia reported that this was her homeland, a universe called Lestinia. She suggested using this journey to find her sisters. Ixia explained that her homeland is not subject to the celestial world. Lestinia is ruled by dragons, against whom the powers of the Celestials are nothing. Jin Jongdo was inspired by the opportunity to meet real dragons. Soon they actually encountered a dragon, which Jin thought looked more like a dinosaur. Ixia assumed that this was a representative of the half-dragon race. The creature was wounded and frightened. But before anything became clear, the knight appeared and finished off the dragon. He introduced himself as the Chosen One. The man offered to take Jin to the nearest village. Ixia didn't feel threatened, and Jin agreed. When he asked the man if he wanted the dragon's remains, he replied that dragons were the source of evil and were to be exterminated. The knight referred to him, the supreme being from whom he supposedly received a blessing, and called him Ixium, the primordial miracle. Jin tried to find out if this was the dragon that created Ixia, but she didn't remember anything about it. She was only sure that when she met her sisters, the memories would return. Then Jin would be able to access all the treasures hidden by her creator. This inspired the boy. The city the man took them to resembled medieval Europe, but the atmosphere here was oppressive. he became increasingly concerned about his surroundings. The poor were suffering, the guards ignored injustice, and the rights of ordinary people were insignificant. The knight said that only a select few had access to the castles, which only increased the feeling of inequality. He suggested that Jin buy a card at the nearest store. Lestinia has been added to his dungeon map. Ixia recognized the Brendu Mountains. This became their new target. The journey to the mountains turned out to be surprisingly calm. At the entrance to the dragon's domain, they were met by a guard who let only the worthy through. After a short fight, Jin Chando proved his strength and was allowed inside. There he found a book. Opening it, he witnessed a message from the past. The book introduced itself as the voice of the golden dragon Ixia, the guardian of Lestinia. The text described the tragic fate of the world, the foreseen destruction of Lestinia by a mysterious group 100 years after the death of the dragon. The dragon tried to change fate. He taught people magic, strengthened the dragon race, but he could not change what was predestined. He only delayed the end for almost 2,000 years. At the moment of the miracle, the predictions for the first time stopped showing the destruction of his universe. At the center of this new path was a man from a distant universe. The dragon gave him an artifact filled with part of his essence and sent him to Earth. He left 6 versions of Ixia in Lestinia. If Jin collects them all, he will gain access to all knowledge and be able to unlock the secret of the destructive power. After delivering the message, the book burned. But Jin was not alone. Someone else had entered the dragon's sanctuary. This mysterious man had been waiting for him all this time. His name was Archangel Shuriel. He was surprised that Jin Chando was able to read the book and offered a deal. Life in exchange for weapons and an artifact. Jin refused. He used the white card to summon a mythical weapon. The Archangel's attack backfired on him. Then, activating a move that cancels immortality and using Perseus's power, Jin Chando struck the enemy. Shuriel attacked in rage, but the boy blocked his blow with his shield. The Archangel's attempt to break the resistance failed. He lost his weapon, and Jin dealt him another blow. The symbol given by God was damaged. Realizing that his armor was being destroyed, Shuriel attempted to escape. Jin Chando, using the Talari created by Perseus, flew after the Archangel. In the sky, he caught up with the enemy and knocked him down to the ground. Shuriel began to beg for mercy, offering to tell everything he knew about the dragon. Jin Chando agreed on the condition that he ask 3 questions, and if the Archangel lies, he will die. Shuriel admitted that there are other Celestials in Lestinia above the rank of Seraphim. One was in the capital, and he knew nothing about the second. The angel tried to trick the guy and force him to put his hand on the artifact that would destroy him. Jin Chando destroyed it and dealt a crushing blow to the enemy. After Shuriel's death, Ixia absorbed his artifacts. She sensed the aura of her other sisters and led Jin along with her. As a reward for his victory, he received immunity to petrification and the weapon master skill. Upon reaching the new city, Jin Chando noticed that everyone there possessed mana. The local awakening ritual piqued his interest and he decided to take part in it. After waiting his turn, he approached a familiar ball that resembled a device for activating mana. The scans showed that it was an awakening artifact with a built-in binding spell, like in his world, where such technology was developed by McDowell. Suddenly, a man approached him, whom Jin recognized as the legendary Ixia. He smelled Shuriel's blood on the boy. Jin Chando lied when he said he was only helping the wounded. But the man also noticed the trace of Laoel, someone who should not be in Lestinia. Jin didn't have time to come up with an answer. Ixi attacked. He wondered how Shuriel could lose to a human. This mockery made Jin angry. He used a card that gave him access to the powers of the Knight Roland, one of Charlemagne's 12 paladins. Jin Changdo turned on Berserk mode, transferring control of his body to Roland's personality. The old man was intrigued, surprised by the enemy's resilience and unconventional behavior. Jin struck blows, but his opponent successfully parried them. With Roland's madness temporarily deactivated, Jin used it to land a precise blow on the enemy. His attack was calculated and aimed at the enemy's vulnerable points. Next, changing his weapon to a hammer, he wounded Ixius. Roland confessed that he was suffering from madness. Only his comrade was able to calm him down. After activating his frenzy skill once again, Jin furiously attacked Ixia and pierced his body with his hand. The battle ended with Jin winning. He gained 1 level point, which seemed strange to him. The people outside the door were screaming. Ixi rose from the floor as if nothing had happened and ordered them not to enter. The wounds on his body healed. He confessed to Jin that no one could kill him. The old man then cut off his own head, demonstrating that his body was immortal. Jin Chando didn't understand what he was. Ixi claimed that he was not a god or a celestial, but promised to show Jin his essence. He revealed to the guy that he had the talent immortality. Ixi considered their fight to be useless, since Jin Chando would never be able to kill him. The guy tried to find out the age of his opponent. Ixi admitted that he reached the level cap of 125, after which he could only increase his stats through grueling training. He had long since stopped paying attention to age. He carried out the tasks of the Celestials. The angels promised to grant him death. Jin Chando armed himself with a harp, a weapon capable of neutralizing immortality. He activated the card combination and summoned Astolfo, who could curb Roland's madness. In battle, he attacked Ixia furiously, striking harder and harder. At the moment of climax, his communication talent activated the enemy's original miracle. Surprised, Jin Chando cut the enemy in half with a blow from his harp. However, Ixi recovered. There was a flash. A celestial appeared in the hall. With one blow, he removed Ixius from his path. Jin Chando realized that Serial was the last celestial in the city. His double summoning time was coming to an end, and Serial, filled with anger, was preparing to attack. Jin was thinking about using the X ticket when Ixi suddenly stopped the angel, stating that things wouldn't be that simple. Serial didn't understand what he was getting at until his nose caught the scent of blood relatives. Then he realized Jin Chando had killed one of them, a bearer of noble blood. This fact threatened the wrath of the gods, because they had been working towards the conquest of Lestinia for many years. By empowering people, they sowed hostility among them towards dragons. The death of one of them would disrupt the whole plan. Serial wanted to capture Jin and hand him over to the gods to avoid the punishing sentence, but Ixi didn't mean it. He attacked Serial, declaring the end of their alliance. The old man explained to the angel that the guy had a better chance of killing him. He handed Jin the artifact that was inside the Force Awakener. Having promised to return one day, the old man disappeared through the opened portal. There were no more Ixian sisters left in Lestinia, and their mission was coming to an end. However, the Awakener of the Force worried Jin. It was too similar to the earthly one. The guy doubted that it was created by an ordinary old man. After loading the rewards, he received 2 new skills: superior regeneration and immunity to fear. Jin Jungdo returned home intending to rest, but numerous messages from his friends disrupted his plans. In the company of Liu Shan, he urgently went to his guild. There he was met by employees and friends, concerned about the sudden disappearance of their boss. Yun Suyun and Kang Haishik were especially worried. It turned out that Haishik's brother, Hee Chun, and Ellie McDowell had not returned from the S-rank dungeon they had gone to together for 25 days. Jin Cheondo decided to make sure they were alive and used the forced summoning skill to briefly summon He Chun and give him a message of support. After confirming that he was alive, Jin Cheondo noticed a wound on his body, presumably from Ellie's weapon, which worried him. He intended to fly urgently to the USA where this dungeon was located. Hunters met him at the site, but with his documents he gained access to the zone. After exploring the dungeon, he realized that it was a loneliness type, where participants see each other in the form of their nightmares, and only one survivor can pass it. Jin Chando knew he had to hurry to save his comrades. To save his friends, he decided to use the identity of Princess Kiki, the only SS-ranked hunter in Japan. This choice was due to her unique skills needed to successfully complete the dungeon. Upon entering the labyrinth-type dungeon, Jin Jongdo encountered the dangers typical of such places: hidden traps and difficult navigation. However, thanks to his guide with outstanding intuition, he was able to avoid many threats. Ixia, who was accompanying Jin, noticed that the dungeon was taking an interest in those who entered, manifesting images of other people as personal traumas in their minds. This explained why Ellie attacked He-chun. Jin activated the defense, which further attracted the dungeon's attention. As they moved forward, they discovered traces of battles and dead people. Ixia sensed someone's presence, and they soon found the injured He-chong. Jin healed him, and He-chong revealed that their comrades had begun to go mad under the influence of the dungeon's magic. Thanks to the mental resistance artifact given to Ellie, he was able to maintain his sanity, but the girl herself was left without protection. Suddenly, an armed Ellie appeared, looking bad. The terrain changed and they were alone again. The labyrinth seemed to be pushing them to fight. Ellie attacked Jin, but he successfully repelled her blows with the help of the divine shield Aegis. The essence of the labyrinth decided to intervene, declaring that rules exist for the purpose of following them. She created the creature Mushima, which Jin Chando must fight. The enemy had the potential to reach the real universe. A frightening, murderous aura emanated from him. Jin Chando's attempt to attack was unsuccessful, as he easily parried the blows. He-chun, realizing that he was in the way, tried to carry Ellie to safety, but Mushima led them outside the dungeon, leaving them to fight one-on-one. Using the black card, Jin downloaded Gandhi's personality. His abilities gave him the ability to ignore damage and block attacks. But Jin Chando didn't need to block, he needed to attack. He tried his luck with the cards again. The labyrinth was the enemy's territory, and he controlled it completely. The walls were closing in, blows were raining down from all sides. The enemy dealt powerful blows. Jin Jongdo realized that he did not have enough strength to crush the enemy. At this point, Chok Chugen offered to take over the fight. Meanwhile, Musima asked the boy a philosophical question. What is more important, natural talent or divine weapons? He challenged Jin Chando to push his limits and show his full power. The boy refused to give up control of his body to General Chuk Jugyung, deciding to fight himself. This act earned the general's respect, and he entrusted him with the full force of his combat experience. By activating the hidden skill, Unity of the Divine Sword, Jin gained access to all of Chok Chugen's abilities. The opponent accepted the challenge. Their fight flared up with renewed vigor. Jin dodged the blows and delivered precise counterblows, anticipating the enemy's tactics. He began to see what had been hidden before, the martial world of Chuk Jugyung. The enemy unleashed a flurry of sneak attacks on Jin, knocking him off his feet. The guy, using his regeneration ability, rose again, shocking the enemy. A philosophical discussion about the meaning of combat techniques broke out between them. Jin believed that rules were important because they led to a goal. The opponent argued that perfection is achieved only through complete freedom from forms. The battle continued. Jin dodged, parried, and then activated a new hidden skill, Simple Slash. The powerful move dealt serious damage to the enemy. Suddenly, the dungeon could not withstand it. Gigantic energy burst out, causing the destruction and splitting of the underground structure. After a powerful blow, Jin Chando realized that his enemy was still alive. The system did not issue a victory notification. The enemy emerged from under the rubble. Jin gathered all his resolve, realizing that this was his last chance to win. He created a powerful magical barrier of 13 layers. However, the enemy broke through it using the fireweave technique. Despite the destroyed shield, Jin Chando stood firm. The opponent admitted defeat, noting that he also had a time limit. He admitted that he came not to win, but to train Jin, but in the end, he himself suffered a defeat. Ashamed of this, he asked the name of the winner. The enemy then acknowledged that the victory and reward rightfully belonged to Jin Chando. As a reward, the boy received pure blue jade, a heaven destruction technique, and a scroll of movement. This surprised him because according to the rules, there was only one award. In addition, he was granted the skill's 3rd-level heavenly body and powerful cutting attack. These gifts greatly enhanced his abilities and opened up new horizons for development. Jin Jongdo visited Ellie in the hospital. She told him about her past and about the mysterious man who once gave her the awakening stone. Jin began to suspect that this man might be an alternate version of himself from the true universe known as the Veil. This discovery raised many questions for him about the nature of his own being. Chando realized that when he from the true universe was speeding up the great changes on Earth, he thought that he was doing it to destroy the planet. But by passing on to Ellie the skill of creating the awakening stone, he actually showed her a way to overcome the disaster. The guy didn't understand what the real purpose of what was happening was. Does the real him really want to go back to the past and change the lost world? Jin Chando, not wanting to jump to conclusions, decided to gather more information first. After arriving home, he called Winry Makina to ask her important questions. Winry warned that it was difficult for her to reveal information that could harm another universe, but was prepared to answer. When Jin asked if his counterpart from another universe possessed the original miracle, Winry was evasive but acknowledged the high probability. According to her, she tried to find this Chando, but he disappeared from her sight, which may be due to the power of the original miracle, the only one capable of hiding actions even from her. She explained that the true universe's Jongdo was originally an ordinary human and may have gained his talents after being deified. Winry emphasized that Jin Chando gained his abilities solely due to his talent for communication. The skill of communication was higher than immortality because it arose together with the universe itself, being the foundation for society. Winry encouraged Jin to be proud of his unique talent. Jin Chando asked Winry Makina what talent was considered the strongest. She answered, birth. This explained a lot to Jin. If his counterpart from the true universe had this talent, it could be the reason why he created the Create Awakened skill and was able to avoid Winry's surveillance. Winry expressed her hope that her master Chando, the one she was currently talking to, would be able to obtain the same level of talent. She then asked Jin why he was so eager to meet his true self. Jin admitted that he is afraid of uncertainty, and wants to face the truth. After that, he asked Winry to tell him how to develop talent. She explained that increasing the level and using special items contribute to the development of talent. He should continue to act as before. She also advised him not to worry too much about Lord Chondo of the True Universe, since by interfering in the affairs of people, he had probably already exhausted most of his strength. Meanwhile, Lord Chondo of the True Universe continued to fight. His allies were at their limit. They were about to surrender, but their leader insisted that they not lose faith. He won't let them give up, because if they give up, it will really be over. There are still many battles ahead of them, and if they do not lose hope, they will definitely manage to survive.